viewers, welcome to stream. Oh, hey, why are the Q&A questions visible? Get out of here. It's not time for you yet. Anyway, hi guys, welcome to stream. Welcome to stream. We're streaming. Can you guys hear me okay? Are we doing all right? How's the audio? I've got no music playing. And I'm going to go ahead and preemptively apologize for the void of silence. Because I want to add music to the edited version of this once that is edited and put up on the channel. And it makes it easier to add music if I'm not fighting with music that was in the original stream and then gets all chopped up when my editor chops it down into clips. Y'all can play your own music in the background if you want, if the void of silence is too oppressive. But I think we're not gonna rock with any background music for this one. Apologies for that. But you guys can provide your own music in like another tab or something. It's all good, all good. I love you, void of silence. I love you too. Okay. So if you guys saw the title, today's topic is that we are doing some more questions. We're taking more questions. This will eventually be an edited down stream. We're gonna post it to the channel. And what I wanna do is I have like 4 main topics that I wanna go into. Give me a moment, I can pull them up. This part's gonna get edited out of the VOD, but I will go ahead and give this to you guys for just a little bit of background info. Is I have 4 main topics for what I want to do is like the series of Q&A videos. So the first one I want to do is about just like comics, just like answering you guys' comics questions. Do we have Frankie in here? Ah, Beans, I forgot to turn my boy on. Give me a sec. He'll be on in just once that tab opens, he'll be on. Give him like 30 seconds and we'll have a Frankie. Sorry about that. I forgot, mods. But yeah, so I'm planning at least 4 of these videos where I basically I take you guys' questions and I answer them on stream, and then we edit them down into a compilation of just like answering questions, and we make that into a video. So the first one's going to be about comics. The second one is going to be about like professional art career related stuff. These will not necessarily be in order. This is just like the order they're in my document. The third one will be like general art advice, and then there will also be one on writing. And I took questions from you guys a while back, and I've compiled them into a doc, and then my friend / editor friend Leevely compiled them all, like kind of looked for which questions were asked a whole lot, organized them all for me, and then I took the questions that were being very frequently asked, and then I also took questions that I thought would be interesting to answer, even if they were a little bit more niche, and I took questions that I thought that I personally could give a really good answer for. There were some that I was like, oh, this is a good question, but I don't necessarily know how I would answer it. And so I left those out, that kind of thing. But eventually there will be probably at least 4 videos on the channel. And so for this one, we're going to be finishing up the comics questions, and then I will edit this and we'll have it up in the channel probably in July. But yeah. So that's what we're doing today. This is going to play along very similarly to the one I did last month, where it's basically just, I'm going to be scrolling through questions down here. And then I'll take questions from chat at the end if we have time. But full disclosure, we probably won't, because my voice tends to give out around hour 2. And so the longer we go, the more my voice will start to hate me. But you guys, chat will be visible in the YouTube video once it goes live, so be on your best behavior, okay? You guys have to be good. Or I've instructed the mods that they're allowed to kill you. Same rules from last time. But yeah, so here, let me go ahead and do an introduction for YouTube. So let me, say hi, YouTube. You guys are on YouTube right now already. It's the same platform that the video will be going on. Anyway, hello, good people of YouTube. Thank you for coming. I recently took a bunch of questions from my audience, and today I'm going to be answering them for you. We're going to be doing several videos on several different topics, but this one we are going to be answering comics-specific questions, like questions about making comics and all the little ins and outs of comic-related stuff. A topic that I feel very qualified to talk about because I've been making comics and web comics specifically for over 15 years at this point. That's so many. That's like pretty much half my life at this point. That's a lot. But yeah, so we are going to be going through and answering questions from my lovely viewers. So I say let's go ahead and get right into it. So we've got our questions down here. So first question. I put some rapid fire questions here at the beginning. So some of these I will be able to just like speed through just a couple. Yeah. So first question is, when working on your comic, do you work on one page at a time or do you do them in batches? So yes, I work in, right now, I do 2-page batches because my usual update schedule is that I post 2 pages a week. And so in order to keep up with that streaming or with that posting schedule, I have to draw 2 pages a week. And so what I'll do is I usually sketch in larger batches because I like to just like sit and spend an entire day like sketching comics, and then I don't have to worry about sketching until I run out of sketches. And I'm right now I'm working my way through all of the pages that I sketched on a plane the last time I was out and about. I sketched like 10 pages in the airport and the airplane when I was on my way to MomoCon. And so I'm still working on through that buffer. But I used to do larger buffers for a long time. I would do like batches of 8 pages. Because, you know, I would do 8 pages a month. And so I would work on 8 pages at a time. And then I would have like, I would finish a batch of pages and then I'd have a couple of days and then I'd start on the new one, but doing a month's worth of pages would take me approximately a month. And I did that for a while before I realized that it was really bad for me. Because if I spent that long with a batch of pages in progress, I could not bring myself to work on anything else. So it would be like if I had a batch of pages that needed to be drawn and that I was like still inking or still coloring or what have you. If I ever sat down to draw, even for fun, like if I sat down to do something, my brain was like, you still have pages you need to work on. Why are you not working on pages? You need to work on these pages. You have a whole bunch of pages in progress and none of them are finished. What are you doing? And so I would freak out. And then I would like, I could only work on cast off pages while a batch was in progress, but it would take 3 weeks for me to finish a batch of 8 pages. And then by the time I was done, I was tired, I was burnt out, and I would only have like I would have a couple days to rest and recoup and work on other things before, time to start the next batch of pages because it's a new month. And that was not good for me. I at some point realized this is not healthy. This is not good for me. And so then I started doing batches of 2 pages, 2 pages a week. And then once I was done with the 2 pages I needed to do every week, I was not allowed to work on the comic until the following week. So for me, at this exact moment, this has shifted a little bit. For right now, the 2 days at the start of my week, which for me, I take my days off on Monday and Tuesday. So today is actually my Monday. Today is Wednesday. And so today is the start of my week. So today I sketch if I need to, and then ink all of my comic pages, like both comic pages for the week. So I did that this morning. And then tomorrow will be coloring and rendering day. And so tomorrow I'll take those 2 pages and I'll color them and I'll render them. And then once those pages are done, I do not work on the comic again until next Wednesday. That's my schedule. And keep setting that boundary where it's like, okay, you've reached this point, you've accomplished what you need to do, you are not allowed to work on the comic anymore. It's kind of helped to cut back on the burnout and the workaholicness of my typical schedule. But yes, so if you're considering working in batches, the whole point of that tangent I went on is that it might take a little bit to kind of figure out what a good work cycle is for you. But I recommend, experimenting a little bit. And then if you're on a certain schedule for a little while and you find that it's like, okay, here's what's working and here's what's not, think about that, examine it. And if there's anything that's not working, try to experiment. How can you make it work better for you? Because if you're doing something like this for the long haul, that's a very important skill to develop, is the ability to just, know your limits, know your boundaries, and figure out what's not working and changing, and figure out what is working and feed into that. So, thumbs up. All right, next question. How long does it take you to make 1 page approximately? So for me, cast off pages, like I said, I do them in batches of 2. So it's a little hard to say exactly how long a single page takes me, because I'm usually working on 2 at a time. And it also varies pretty significantly. It depends on the number of panels on a page. It depends on how many characters are in the scene and how many times I have to draw them. Like, how many figures do I have to draw across this entire page? How intense are the backgrounds? How much backgrounds are there? Are there any really detailed establishing shots that I need to do? Are there any group shots? How much detail? All of that impacts how long a page will take. But I'll give you guys an estimate. I would say that a very simple page that does not have a whole lot of detail on it can take me as little as 3 to 4 hours. If it's just a really, really simple page with only a couple panels on it, or not a whole lot going on. Okay, so for example, the page of Cast Off that's up right now, the page that is on the website, the current page that was just posted. Let me get it for you guys. I can drop it on the page real quick. So okay, well here, I'll do the page before, because I think it's a better example of what I'm talking about. So this is a page of Cast Off that did not take me very long. Because if you look at it, it's only 4 panels, it is 3 figures, there are no backgrounds. This page was laughably easy. This page took me probably 3 hours to draw in total. Maybe 4, probably closer to 3. This was an easy page. Easy page for babies. Baby easy page. Let me go back and show you one that's different. Where's that page in chapter 11 that almost killed me? Where is it? This one that I keep having to come back to. Okay, so here's a baby page for babies. And then we have, what's a good example for this thing that I'm talking about? Trying to find, there's a lot of them in chapter 11 were really difficult because there's just so many characters on the page all the time. Let's do one of the library pages. There we go. So this is another page. This is from chapter 11. This freaking background. This freaking library. Why? Why did I do this to myself? Why did I do this to myself? This page took probably 8 to 10 hours. Because you've got a lot of the characters in there. You did all this. I had to make a 3D model to draw this background from so many angles. Long ass page. Lot of drawing, lot of stuff. Oh my god. But then you also have pages that just have a whole lot of characters on them. Let me find a good example of that. where it's just like, where's one with like a group shot? Yeah, here we go. So this is an example of a page that's complicated, but not necessarily because of the backgrounds. Because I had to draw so many characters on this page. Because like there's at least 2 characters in every single panel. Like down here, there's 4 characters in each panel. Oh my God, this took so long to draw just because there's so many characters on the dang page. So pages like these 2 will take longer. On average, I would say probably about 6 hours per page. But that can vary significantly based on the number of characters, the amount of backgrounds, the amount of detail, the number of panels, etc., etc. So there you go. There's a little bit more intel for y'all. All right, so moving on to our next one. How long does it take you to finish a page of cast off? I just answered that. But what are your biggest time-saving techniques / ways you streamline your process? An excellent question. So like I said, how long does it take you to finish a page of cast off? I just talked about that. Actually, here, hang on. Let me reread that one so I have a better take for the video. Sorry, give me a sec. Question, how long does it take you to finish a page of cast off? What are your biggest time-saving techniques / ways you streamline your process? So I already answered the first one just now, but I can definitely go into that second question a little bit more about the time-saving techniques / ways you streamline your process. Biggest ways that I have developed over the past couple of years. Number 1, Spvwvky. Spvwvky for coloring. Oh my God. Listen, I'm like a camp counselor and I'm pulling up a chair and I'm sitting in it backwards to show that I'm on the level and I'm cool. I'm looking out over all of y'all, my little audience of little campers. Listen, you guys can do art however you want. I'm not here to tell you that you have to do it a certain way. That's the last thing I want to do. I'm not here to do that. However, if you are a professional, you are on a deadline, and you are getting paid, please, I am putting my hands together and I am praying. I'm doing the praying emoji. I am looking at you guys, my little campers. Please don't color your pages like a coloring book. I'm on my knees begging you guys to love yourselves a little bit more and just like... The deadlines are approaching and you're not getting any younger. Please just learn how to use the Spvwvky if you want to learn how to draw faster, guys. If you want to draw faster, just learn how to use the Spvwvky. I made a whole video on it. I made an art tutorial about how to, I like color really fast, and I can do an entire colored illustration in like an hour. And it's all because of my best friend, Spvwvky. And if you say to yourself, but Star, the Spvwvky doesn't work the way I want to. If you use Clip Studio Paint, please go look up that video I made on how to use the Spvwvky and how to color faster. It will save you guys literal hours. And it's like, listen, again, I can't tell you what to do. I am just simply saying, it's a skill worth learning if you want to not burn out. If you just want to be able to get this coloring done, Spvwvky. We've got it in the chat. There's a link right there. I'll make sure that the link is also in the video. But yeah, so that's a huge one. Flatting my comic pages takes like 15 minutes. It's so easy. It's so easy. And it's like every time I see a speed paint of someone who colors like a coloring book, I don't drink, but if I did, it would drive me to drink. It's that type of thing. It's like, listen, you can do whatever the hell you want for fun. You can do whatever the hell you want for fun if you find it relaxing. But if you are, trying to make a webcomic and you've got deadlines and you've got all this other stuff and if you need to go fast, there is so much value in learning the shortcuts. Anyway, another method, learning some extremely remedial 3D modeling will save you so much time and make it so much easier, because you'll be able to just like get the exact perspective you want and take a screenshot and just like loosely trace over the backgrounds, and you'll be able to loosely trace over the 3D models, so you don't have to draw all your backgrounds from scratch. Saves me so much time. So much time. Oh my God. But yeah, so 3D models doing all that. Having a file with just like all the flat colors for your characters readily available so you can always go back and reference them is also a good idea. It's less time saving and more just like, hey, have it readily available so you're not having to hunt for your color swatches. I think those would be my main big three. I think those are gonna be my main big ones. Big time savers. But honestly, just those two alone will save you hours, especially the fill bucket stuff. Especially the fill bucket and the various speedy coloring techniques that I exposit about in that video. Go watch that video, by the way. Cough. But yes, moving right along to the next question. How do you plan panel layout? Do you have any rules about panel variation that you follow? An excellent question. I love this question. So I'll go ahead and say this is a hard question to answer without many visuals. I will go ahead and say up front though, I do have, I have an entire section in my book, How to Webcomic, shameless self-plug, where I kind of talk about this and I use a lot of pictures and stuff, but I can go ahead and pull up some of those pictures to show you guys here, just to kind of make the points that I'm trying to make. Give me a moment to get those pictures on screen. Actually, you know what we might be able to do? I wonder if I can open a PDF in, maybe I can do this. I can do this and we can, here, maybe, oh, shut up, Adobe Acrobat. Okay, here, we're gonna try something a little bit quirky. We're gonna get a little bit quirky right now. We're gonna get a little bit quirky right now. Give me just a moment to try and do a window capture. And we are going to select Adobe Acrobat. There we go. And we're gonna crop it in. And we're gonna crop it in. And I'm gonna show you guys some of the stuff that's in my silly little book. Wow, you guys are getting a treat today. You guys are getting spoilers for my book, How to Webcomic, available for purchase at TheStarfishface.com. Anyway, so a couple of key features here. Oh, I even got the mouse capture on. That's so nice. So panel sizes is a big thing. The larger your panels are, the more time your reader is going to spend looking at it. So this big ol' establishing shot, your reader's gonna look at this a lot longer than they look at something like this, where it's just like one little guy. One little guy alone in this panel, your audience is gonna skim right back over that. So, you know, sometimes that's what you want. If you want the audience to linger, bigger panel. If you want it to just be like a short, quick little moment, little panel. I generally do no more than a 3x3 grid, but I also like to mix it up where it's like, this is just a personal rule of mine. You don't have to follow this, but I personally like to have at least one full width panel in every page. That's just for me. That's just for me. But that's just a rule I try to follow. I hit that about 95% of my cast off pages. I try to have at least one panel that is the full width. And yeah, I wouldn't do more than like a 3x3 grid. My pages are tall, so I sometimes do 3x4. But I also draw tall pages. Yeah, I wrote that in the book. But yeah, so you can mix it up, mix and match. Varying panel sizes will make it look more interesting. I've seen people make comics and their pages look like this, and I don't want to be mean and say that it's bad, but it is boring to look at if all your panels are the same sizes. And like, this is better, but it's still kind of stale, you know? You can also, I personally like to use tilty pages. I like to use tilty panels for really like dramatic scenes. If it's like dramatic and there's a lot of stuff happening, I do like tilty panels. You can also have your dudes pop out of the panel. Yeah, so then we also talk a little bit more about panel flow. You have to think about the direction that your readers are going to be reading it in. And so usually, we read English, so we read left to right, top to bottom. And so people will generally read like this: first row, and then the second row left to right, and then the third row left to right. And so you got to kind of be conscious about how your panels flow and how your readers are going to be reading them. I'll let the book kind of speak for itself there. I have a couple more tips just on like general stuff, but this is just like some kind of general paneling things to keep in mind. Also, I will go ahead and say, for panels, I highly recommend figuring out what your panels are going to be doing. Let me go ahead and turn that window capture off. I highly recommend figuring out your panels in the thumbnailing stage, where you're basically just like drawing your characters as little stick figures and experimenting with a couple of different layouts for every single page, just to kind of see what works and what makes things work. And wow, I'm really good at English. But yes, so panels are complicated, but I find that the more you do it, the more you kind of get a wrangle on what each scene is going to call for. Paneling is fun. I guess let's wrap it up with like the biggest tips here is that use varied panel sizes. Being able to use different panel sizes is one of the joys of the medium, so don't lock yourself into having like every single panel be the exact same size. Try to mix it up. Try and like make your layouts a little bit more interesting. Try to, like have different sizes, different variances. Bigger panels are generally for like more important moments. Smaller panels are for the smaller, quicker moments. Mix it up. Tilty panels for more action-oriented shots. And buy my book. I do have a cast-off book, but buy my book. Available at TheStarfishface.com. It's called How to Webcomic. Links in the chat. And I'll make sure that I have those links in the video as well. But yes, panels. Wow. You guys would not believe how many times I got questions about paneling. It's something that I guess scares people, but panels are fun. I like panels. I guess just like one more little tip about paneling. If you want some further research, look up storyboarding and like different storyboarding techniques for people. Study screen design specifically. Like watch some videos about screen design, watch some videos about storyboarding, because the two mediums are very closely related to each other. And a lot of times rules that apply to one will apply to the other. And being a little bit of a film nerd and learning about screen design and the different rules of screen design, absolutely enormously helpful for comics, just because, it's telling a story with a visual medium. There is overlap there. And so learning about one will oftentimes help you learn more about the other. So there's one final tip for y'all. Moving right along to the next question. How long do you suggest webcomic chapters be? And to build off this, what advice do you have for planning out what goes into each chapter? So chapter length, I think okay, so I think this is also going to depend on what exactly you mean by a chapter, because the meaning of that term has changed a little bit with the onset of stuff like Webtoon. Really quick. Manga, thank you for the super chat. I'm learning to make 3D models to make my comic. Not sure how that's going to turn out, but I hope it goes really well. I'm rooting for you. Good luck. 3D models are very helpful. There's a lot of free resources for learning here on YouTube, places like Skillshare online. All I've heard is like, don't do the donut tutorial. I've heard that the donut tutorial is not good. And honestly, I tried watching it and I got frustrated. But yeah, look up some 3D modeling tutorials. There's a ton on YouTube. Just learn some basic Blender. It'll get you a lot of places. But yeah, so on Webtoon, and I guess also on Tapas, where you have like longer updates, people will call a batch of updates a chapter. And it's like usually, in it's so weird because I do not think of chapters this way. With myself, and I know a lot of other comic artists who don't necessarily do the Webtoon format, a chapter is like a chapter in a novel. And so this is more a question about like, okay, how long is each chapter of your novel? Because for me, it's like a graphic novel, right? I tell stories in this format, and each chapter is like a series of scenes. And so how long your chapters are, honestly, it's gonna kind of be a matter of personal taste. And just kind of also, like, I've seen comics that will just end a chapter in the middle of a scene, and then the scene will pick up exactly where it left off in the next chapter. And I always personally thought that was a little bit silly. Me personally, I pace cast off and cast off's chapters like an anime a little bit. So I imagine that if each chapter is roughly a 20-minute episode of a show, like an anime or like a cartoon or something, how much would you be able to fit reasonably into a 20-minute episode of like TV? That's how much I do for each chapter. And for me, it's less about page count and more about the events of the chapter, because some chapters will need more pages just because like of the pacing, or like action scenes will balloon your page count like nothing else. Scenes with a lot of talking tend to be a little bit more condensed sometimes. It's very individualized. It's very, it's gonna depend. Now, if you're doing something like Webtoon and you're thinking about how long each update should be, I'm gonna call them updates from now on because I refuse to call them chapters because I'm old and I'm an old man shaking my cane at the sky. For each update, I would say get through a decent story beat. But I don't do Webtoon style comics, and so it's a little bit harder for me to suggest how to do those. I would say just like make sure that maybe like there's at least a story beat for the readers to sink their teeth into, but also like don't try and push out 40, 50, 60 panels per update if you're updating weekly and you can't keep up with it all. Like it's a complicated question because it is going to heavily depend on what you yourself are capable of. And the solution for that is always going to be test things out, experiment, see what works for you, see what's reasonable, look for feedback from your readers and your friends, get some friends to read it and be like, hey, do you guys think this is enough or should I go on it a little bit longer? See what works for you and your schedule and your update schedule and how much you can be putting into each update, all this other stuff. It really comes down to experimenting, and that's why I said before, learning how to experiment and learn from the results of your experiments is one of the best skills you can learn in this kind of field. So I would say just like test it out, figure it out, Godspeed. Alrighty, moving along to the next question. How do you draw characters consistently? I got a surprising, this got asked a surprising number of times. Because okay, so here's the thing. I'll get the annoying answer out of the way. How do you draw characters consistently? You just do. You just do. But that's the annoying answer. So let me try and give something a little bit more substantial. For me, when I am figuring out a character, when I'm designing a character, when I am sussing out a character's design, when I'm trying to figure out their vibe, I will just draw them over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like I'm trying to drill how they look into my face or into my brain. It's like working out and doing the same thing over and over and over again. I'll usually, give them a different expression, just to make it a little less monotonous, but drawing the same character over and over again from a bunch of different angles and making a bunch of different facial expressions, not only is that fun for me, it's also kind of drilling that character's look and design and how to draw them into my head. And so by the time I'm actually, like making a comic or doing something more with these characters, I've kind of, I've run my drills, I've done my laps. I have kind of worked them to a point where it almost becomes muscle memory. Like, I could draw just about any character from Cast Off just off the cuff right now because it's muscle memory. I don't have to think about what they look like. I could draw them with my eyes closed at this point. There's a couple of like little details that I sometimes have to go back and check for characters I don't draw super often. Like, for example, I am constantly forgetting what ear Zara's one earring is in because I made that bitch asymmetrical and I've regretted it ever since. Because I constantly forget what side it's on. But aside from that, for me, repetition helps. Repetition helps a ton. And then everybody, of course, is screaming everyone's screaming in the chat, make reference sheets. And yes, that also. See, my thing, why I say do some drills, build that muscle memory, exactly. The reason I say that is because I find for me, I can work off a model sheet and a model sheet will help me remember their design, but oh, no government name. Thank you for the coffee donation. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. But yeah, so for me, like, I can see a character's design in a model sheet and I can use that to remember what they look like. But for me, running the drills and drawing the character a whole bunch over and over and over again, that actually helps more for like drawing them consistently, I've found. Because like, you know, sometimes you draw a character for the first time, cool, but then you draw the character a second time and you're drawing the same design, but they feel different. And I feel like that's what a lot of times people have struggles with. So yeah, a character model sheet will make sure you're drawing their design the same way every time. But actually doing those drills, doing that repetition, really burning how to draw them into your memory will help you a lot more in the long run, I find. Just get a page of your sketchbook and draw them like 12 times. Just draw them in a grid. Just draw a bunch of little guys. It's good for you. It's good for the soul. I actually just scanned my entire sketchbook yesterday. I can show you guys a picture of what I'm talking about. Give me just a moment. I have to go and find these pictures, but I have scans now because guess who's gonna make a sketchbook like a printed one? We're doing it. Where did it go? I dragged it. Oh, I don't know if it's gonna let me do it because it's a TIFF file. It's not gonna let me do it. It's not gonna let me drag the file because it's a TIFF file and OBS doesn't like TIFFs. Oh, well, anyway, just draw the characters' faces a bunch. Just draw them a bunch. Just draw them over and over and over again and have a good time. Get that muscle memory down. Suss out your blorbos. I also find that sometimes a character's design will change and adapt as I draw them more. And honestly, like for me, drawing a character during the process of developing their personality is a hugely important step. Like there's times where it's like, I can't figure out how to write this character until I've drawn them like 50 times. Cause I'm like, I have to figure out who you are, which means that I have to draw you until I feel like I get your vibes. I have to draw you until I understand you. And so, you know, just like drawing them over and over again, you're not only working on the muscle memory, but it's also helping you figure out who they are. But yeah, so just draw them a bunch. Just draw them a bunch. Consistency comes with practice, and practice makes progress. Let's go! Draw thine blorbos over and over again. Brain rot yourself. It's fun. Okay, next question. Do you have any tips for making interesting / unique outfits while keeping them simple enough for drawing over and over in comics? So this is a little bit of a question that's hard for me specifically to answer, because if I am being completely honest, and this is not me fishing for compliments or anything, this is literally just how I feel, is I don't think I am the best at coming up with interesting outfits for my characters. Like, I feel like I focus a little bit too much on slimming down on detail to the point where my characters just, like, their outfits aren't as interesting as they could be. I'll have a lot of fun designing stuff for one-off illustrations, but like designing characters, I do feel like sometimes I value simplicity more than anything else, to almost a detriment to the characters. I'm actually in the process of reworking Lapis's outfit just a touch, just to make it a little bit more visually interesting. But in terms of simplifying stuff, I do have tips for that, and this is why I wanted to answer these questions. So what I like to do when I'm designing a character is I will look up a lot of references, and I will look up like different types of sleeves and different outfits, and like I'll kind of like make a mood board of like, this is kind of what I'm going for with this character. Yeah, references. Definitely look up like fashion references and things of that nature. And if you're like me, a founding member of the oh gosh, what's it called? The Society for Tasteful Anachronisms, and I don't necessarily worry so much about stuff being like historically accurate because I write fantasy and I don't give a shit. I just like to look at stuff that's interesting, that like has an interesting shape. Do these sleeves look interesting? Would this character wear something like this? I'm also coming from a cosplay background because I used to cosplay a lot. And so I like to think about the practicality of certain outfits where I'll draw a character wearing something and be like, they would never wear this because that's the way that this sleeve is shaped. That would be so annoying to move in. So no, you're not actually going to have a sleeve like this. It's another reason why my outfits are also simple and practical, is because I imagine them wearing them, and I'm like, oh god, that would be a pain to wear. But anyway, it's also why my characters always have like pouches and bags and little backpacks and stuff, because I'm like, they gotta put their stuff somewhere. They gotta put it somewhere. This is the stuff I think about. But as far as like simplifying them, what I would do is I kind of like how I just said, you just draw them over and over and over again. What I do is I'll design a character, and then I will draw their outfit over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. As I'm burning their design into my brain, I'll just draw them and their outfit over and over and over again. And I will see like, okay, this detail is hard to draw. Maybe I can simplify it. Maybe I can slim it down. Or if there's details I constantly forget, those will often just disappear from the design. Like if I give a character like a weird little detail, it's gonna get forgotten past a certain point, and it just, it goes away. It goes away. I just cut down on a lot of like unnecessary detail and just keep like the bare bones, but enough of the bones to keep it interesting, you know? And so for me, a lot of times that just comes from drawing the same thing over and over and over again until it coagulates into a good outfit that's easy to draw, fast to draw. You kind of streamline it by drawing it over and over and over again, right? This is just me coming on my little soapbox and telling all y'all to just draw your blorbos like a bajillion times. Thumbs up. It's like, we draw our characters here. We have fun here. Draw thine blorbos 1 billion times. You'll thank me later. Just do it. Anyways, moving right along to next question. How do you balance visual storytelling with written dialogue or narration in your webcomics? Do you ever cut written scenes because the visuals already say enough? This is a fantastic question. I love this question because this is such a huge thing. This is like the show don't tell argument, right? If you guys are not familiar, show don't tell is a thing in visual storytelling mediums like comics, but also movies and TV. Anything that you're telling a story and there is a visual element, there is a spectrum. We'll call it a spectrum, where on the one side, there's telling, which is where a character will just kind of exposit to you, the reader. But they'll usually, they're not going to break the fourth wall, but it's like, how often do you have a character just say how something is? And then how often do you just show that in your visual medium because you have the visuals? So for example, telling would be a character saying, my favorite color is blue. So now they have said that, so now you as the audience can know that that character's favorite color is blue. Or showing would be, the character doesn't ever outright say, my favorite color is blue. But they'll probably wear a lot of blue clothes. And their phone will be blue. They'll have like little blue accessories. Maybe their bedroom is painted blue, or their sheets are blue, like where they sleep. They have like blue clothes. They'll have blue shoes. They just like, if you start to associate that color with that character, you might start thinking, oh, this character's favorite color is blue. And there might be some form of doubt there, because the character never outright came onto screen and said, my favorite color is blue. But you can look at the context you are given and you can figure it out. And so that's kind of a very bare bones method of what show versus tell is. Tell is a character just coming out and saying something, or just like having it written somewhere where it's like it's directly giving the information to the audience. And show is dropping hints and clues and context that will make you come to that conclusion without outright telling you something. And there was actually a TikTok video I watched a long time ago that had a great way of talking about how to balance the two. It was fantastic. And of course, now that I'm reading chat and I'm distracted, I'm too ADHD. I have forgotten exactly what the advice was, but it was something along the lines of, oh gosh, how do I phrase it? I watched this video like 2 years ago. And I took the lesson to heart, but I forgot exactly how she phrased it. Oh God, what was it? Well, anyway, it was something along the lines of, if it's important for the story and the readers must know it, it's probably better to just tell them. If there's something that needs to be understood in no uncertain terms, telling is probably a little bit easier. You can also do both. Like I do this a lot in Cast Off, where it's like, I'll do a lot of showing, and then once it gets to a point where it's like, okay, you need to understand this before we move forward, I'll just have a character come out and tell it. Oh, I remembered what that video was now. If it's something that you want to linger on, it's like, if this is information that like you kind of want to just like seep into the world naturally, then showing is better. Showing is better for like kind of steeping it slowly into the world. I've got a food metaphor. I'm working on a food metaphor in my head right now. Showing is like steeping a tea, right? You put the leaves in and you just kind of let it simmer, and you're just like, you let it develop kind of naturally. It takes more time. And you know, it like takes a little bit more time. You have to kind of linger on it. Showing usually takes longer because you have to establish it more. It's kind of, you're being a little bit more covert with it. Telling is like putting that shit in the microwave. Telling is putting a hot pocket in the microwave. It's straightforward, it's easy, boom, done. You spend 2 minutes and then you have a hot pocket, you have a ready-made meal, you're good. So if it's something important that needs to, like, you don't want to spend a lot of time with it, it's just like, okay, I just need to tell my audience that 2 + 2 is 4. You can just tell them that 2 + 2 is 4. It saves a lot of time. You don't need to go all through the thing of showing them 1 + 1 and equals 2, and then 2 + 2 equals 4. That's a lot of time. Just tell them that 2 + 2 just sometimes, like, show and tell both have their place. And kind of like, that's why I called it a spectrum. It's like kind of, okay, I see a lot of people teasing me about leaving shit in the microwave. That happened last stream and we don't need to linger on it, okay? Shut up. Some things are too mundane and tedious to show. Yeah, a lot of just like detailed world building where it's just like, we don't need to linger on this. You just kind of need to understand it. That's where telling can come in a little bit easier. You can just tell your audience things. You don't have to linger on that. Showing is good for like atmosphere. Showing is good for stuff that you want your readers to intuit rather than just telling them. I try to err more on show rather than tell, because I think that show is more interesting, but also you can't show everything. And there is definitely value in just like sitting your audience down and being like, okay, this is how things work, especially in like a fantasy series, right? But insofar as, do you ever cut written scenes because the visuals already say enough? In kind of a twist on that, I know that some people who have read Cast Off are familiar with the story. I have switched to showing things because in the original draft of the script, I used tell too much, and I found that it made the story really boring. So the example of this is the existence of Cast Off Chapter 12. Cast Off Chapter 12, if you are not familiar, is a flashback. Most of the chapter is one of the characters telling the rest of the characters, like, this is what happened in the past and how it affected me and how it also affects you guys by extension. Originally, that chapter was just him expositing, and we got his narration over just like a montage of scenes, and it would have been like 10 pages total. But instead, I looked at my script and I said, you know what? This is boring and I can do this better. And so I basically added in an entire chapter to make it like a proper flashback instead, to show all of that impact and that emotional hits and like how important, because it was like a very important thing for the universe, and it was a very dramatic thing. It was a very important moment for like not just the character telling the story, but it also was really relevant to the entire story as a whole. It was basically the inciting incident for the entire narrative. And I was like, I need to show this. This will be much better and more cinematic, and it will hit a lot harder if I take the time to show this to my audience instead of just making them read 10 plus pages of a character expositing to the rest of the cast. But there have also been times where it's like, okay, I don't think I need to do quite so much telling because the visuals do enough. This was something that I picked up and kind of learned a little bit more when I was working on my first comic, Psy. I remember very specifically when I was working on Psy, I don't know how I got myself into this mindset, but I remember thinking when I was like writing that if my readers had questions, I was doing a bad job, because it means that I'm not explaining things enough. And it's like, it could be like really mundane shit too. Like, it's like, oh, does this cat character like gardening? And I was just like, oh no, I'm not clear enough about the character liking gardening while they're actively sitting in their gardening. And I'm just like, oh my God, I need to be telling the audience more because they're not going to be able to intuit this. I'm leaving my audience with questions. No. I at some point realized, a little bit further down the road, that people asking questions means that they are invested in the story. It does not mean that you are doing a bad job at telling the story if your readers have questions. Also, of note is that webcomics are a very slow storytelling medium. You don't have to answer every single question immediately. You can let things linger. You can take your time to like show things and not have to worry about telling every single person, like every single reader, going into every single detail about every single character who ever shows up in your narrative. Just like let your readers have questions and explain things when they're important. And if you're unsure whether the point is getting across correctly, show your scripts to beta readers. Ask people, hey, is this clear? Are you go show people your scripts and then ask them, what did you gain from this scene? What did you learn? And ideally, people should be learning something from every scene in your comic. What I like to do sometimes, if I really want to make sure that what is coming across is doing well, I will make notes on the sides of my scripts at the end of every scene, being like, what did people 100% learn from this scene? What can they intuit from what they learned from this scene? How does it mesh with things that they've learned previously? And what questions will they still have after this scene is over? And I use that and I take that into account as I move forward with my writing. So I think when you're trying to figure out if you should show or if you should tell, try and think about what experience you want your reader to have. How important is it that they have this information? How much time do you want to spend on it? How important is it that they really, really get this hint that you're trying to lay down? Or is it something that can be a little bit more unclear and more uncertain, and it's not necessarily going to like harm the storytelling aspects? It's like riding a bike. It's a skill that can really only be learned by doing it. But it is a skill that, you know, focusing on will help you learn a bit faster and easier. So, thumbs up. Next question. I'm actually gonna take a quick sec. We're gonna take a little pause. We're gonna take a quick pause. I'm gonna hide my questions and we are going to take a quick pause so I can get a drink of water. How are you guys doing? How are you guys doing? Let's just shoot the shit while I drink my water real quick. Because I've been talking nonstop for 45 minutes. I need to take a damn break. I'm over here yapping my ass off. Do you guys want to know a secret? Do you guys want to know a secret? You guys want to see something? You guys want to see a secret? For watching the VOD and sitting through the stream? Do you guys want to see a secret? You want to see a secret thing? Would you guys like to see a secret? Give me 1 second. I'm getting the secret. Are you guys ready for the secret? What the heck is that? What's that thing on my screen right now? What is that? What could that be? What could that possibly be? I don't know what that is. What's that thing on my screen? Interesting. Don't know what that's about. Ariana Grande, no! She's Ariana Small! Because she's little and plush. Don't ask me when the campaign is starting, because I don't know. Makeship sent me what is the finished prototype today. They sent me the pictures, and so they're going to ship me the plushie. It should get to me in a couple of weeks. And then from there, I'm going to take a bunch of really stupid pictures with it. And then the campaign will probably start sometime after. So I would say estimation, probably sometime later this summer. I do not have exact dates. Do not even look at me. I'm going to talk to the Makeship folks, and we're going to figure out exactly when the best time to start will be. But just, you know, maybe start putting some money aside for a little baby girl. You'll have her for San Japan? I'll have the prototype that I can bring to the con, but I will not have, like, actual plushies. I'm probably going to bring some vector plushies to San Japan, though. Oh, I can talk about that really quick. I got into San Japan, guys. That is a con here in Texas. It's in San Antonio. I did not get into their normal artist alley, which is just like, you know, do whatever the heck you want, fan art, etc. I did not get into that one because San Japan is like super duper competitive. And lots of people apply for it. And also it's a lottery con where just like they take all the applications and they pick random ones and that's who gets into the artist alley. I did not get into that because I have awful, horrible luck with lottery cons. I don't think I've ever genuinely gotten into a lottery convention. Never, ever. I have never gotten into a lottery con, but I try all the time anyway, but I never get in. But San Japan also has something called indie artists tables. There's only a small handful of them. There's like 14 total. And they call them indie artist table. It's for people who are, like me, developing their own IP. And there's no fan art at all allowed at these tables, but it's an expensive table because you get an 8-foot table at a 10 by 10 booth. So it's almost like a vendor table, but it's in the artist alley. but you're only allowed to bring merch of IPs that belong to you. You're only allowed to do original stuff. And so I applied for that, and I got in. And so now I'm trying to figure out, is like, oh, beans, I gotta fill an 8-foot table with nothing but originals. Here we go. So, you know, at the very least, I'm going to have both of my books, the Cast-Off books and How to Webcomic. What I'm also planning on doing is I am planning a Cast-Off Mail Club art book, which is going to be a thing that I have for San Japan, and then I'm also going to put those online. And then I'm also thinking I want to do like a printed, I'm going to call it a zine, but it's going to be more like an actual like art book. I scanned all my sketchbook pages, and editor friend Leevely is in the process of cleaning them up for me. So I'm going to have a printed sketchbook of my last year of sketchbook pages. And it's just like, you'll be able to flip through it just like it's my actual sketchbook. Yeah, art book. And so I'm going to get those printed as well. I'm probably going to do a limited run of the physical sketchbooks, but I will also have them available as digital books. So we shall see. I got to figure out exactly what I don't want to do for the physicals, but I know I want to get some printed for San Japan. Just have, you know, like one more thing available. But I scanned my previous sketchbook, my one that I've already done a sketchbook tour of. And then I scanned my sketchbook that I've been working on since like October that I'm almost done with. And so that accounts for almost exactly a year. So I'm just going to make it like, this is a year in sketchbooks from 2024 to 2025 summer. And so that's what I'm doing. And it's going to be good. It's going to be fun. But yeah, more details on that as it commences, but that's what I'm planning. Are you going to Rose City Comic Con? Not this year. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, because Rose City Comic Con is also in September, as is San Japan, and I didn't want to have a whole bunch of travel cons and all in 1 month. And so I wanted to favor a show that I figured I would probably do well at that was closer. I might try next year, but we'll see. There's like so many cons that I want to go to that are all in September. It's just like, can y'all like spread out a little bit more, please and thank you? There used to be so many cons in Texas over the summer, and now there's like none. It's kind of sad, honestly. All right, let's get this weirdo out of here. All right. Let's get back into it. Next question. Oh, wait. It started me over. Dang it. All right. Next question. Do you have a recommendation on how much buffer to have for a comic? So this is going to be another one of those things where it's going to kind of depend on you and your exact schedule and how much you can reasonably do. I personally like to be approximately a month ahead with my buffer. So for me, because I do 2 pages a week, that's on average 8 pages a month. I try to be 8 pages ahead of my buffer. If you're not aware, a buffer is, so say for example, I'm posting a comic and I post a page every week. If I post page 3 on the website, I have pages that are already finished that are just like locked and loaded and waiting to be posted. And so while page 3 is on the website, I might be working on page 12 or page 11 or 10 or what have you. Basically, it just means like being ahead on your work so that you're not rushing to get new pages done every single week and then hitting publish basically as soon as you're done. I used to do that. It was a nightmare. I don't recommend it because, you know, what happens is if you have no buffer, what might happen is that you might, you know, hypothetically, you might, you know, get hit by a truck and hurt your wrist, and then you can't draw for a while, and then you're basically forced to go onto a comic hiatus because you have no buffer, you have no backlog of pages. But if you have a buffer, you can, if you know, get hit by a truck, but then you still have like 6 more weeks of pages in your backlog of buffer, you can still keep posting pages even though your wrist is broken because you've been hit by a truck. And then, you don't have to stop the webcomic just because you can't work on pages actively. Buffers, I highly recommend them. It will help you. It just helps you be a little bit more consistent, even when life is crazy and you have to juggle a bunch of stuff. Alternative, don't get hit by a truck. Holly, you act as though it was my choice to get hit by that hypothetical truck. So, I wonder if this is based on life experience. Who could say? Who could say, honestly, if that was a thing that happened to me in the past, maybe? Who could say? Gets hit by a truck. Oh no, my comic will suffer. Yeah, that's basically a quote from me, human star person. Hypothetical in quotes. Yeah, listen, we don't have to rehash that story right now. I've told that story plenty on my channel. Go watch my weird injury story video. That'll give you the basics of it. But anyway, buffer is just how to shield yourself from life. Highly recommend a buffer. Again, it's going to be individual per person. It's okay to experiment. I feel like a bigger buffer is generally better. But if you're too far ahead, sometimes you can get itchy and you'll be like, oh, I just finished this page and this page is so cool, but I can't show it to people for 3 more months. I find that about a month ahead is a good average for me, but it could vary for you. You might like more, you might be okay with less. Just, figure out what you're comfy with. Figure out, experiment. If you want to keep a bigger buffer just to be safe and you feel like you're going to get antsy from not being able to show people pages, have a small group of friends in a group chat where you can just show them pages early. I call them my spoiler squad, and I just drop pages as soon as I finish them and I show them to those people, and then that kind of takes the edge off a little bit. But yeah, that is my advice. Rebuffer. Moving along. Did you make the website for Castoff, and what did you use for make it? What did you use to make it? Here, let me do a clean take of that for the video. Did you make the website for Castoff, and what did you use to make it? So Castoff has had a couple of different websites. The current website, as it exists on the internet right this second, I did not make. I paid a friend of mine several dollars to code the website for me. I told her what I wanted, and I was like, I want it to be able to do this. And then she put it together for me on a comic CMS content management system. It's like a scaffolding that you can build a website on, basically. I am extremely coding illiterate, you guys. If you try to teach me how a website backend works, I do spontaneously burst into flames. People have tried, and I had to buy them a new fire extinguisher because they used up their first one trying to extinguish me after my brain spontaneously caught fire when they were trying to explain HTML and JavaScript and things to me. It's bad. So I generally, when I can, I will shop that work out to other people. Because I like my brain uncrispy, personally. So commissioning a website is very much a thing you can do. If you guys want to commission the person who made Castoff's website, their contact information is linked in the footer of the website. I'm not sure what they're going on by now. Their name is Alyssa. They used to make a webcomic. They do not anymore. I don't know how much space they have for freebies these days. But you can definitely get their contact information. Just go on the Castoff's website and scroll all the way down to the bottom, and there will be website credits listed there. Now, if you maybe don't have the money to make a new website right off or to commission someone to make a website for you, a decent option for making your own website, it will still cost money because you'll have to pay to get a domain name and you'll have to pay for hosting. But you can use WordPress. There's a couple of WordPress themes that are specifically made for webcomics. I know that Inkblot, I believe, is the first one I can think of off the top of my head. I think there's a couple more. I don't know if the one that Castoff's site used to be made with is still in service. But there are a couple of different WordPress themes you can use that will manage files and pages just like a webcomic. And so that is a way that you can make a website, is by using WordPress. That's actually what I did for Castoff's original website. It wasn't great. It loaded a little bit slow, but it was real easy. It was drag and drop. It was easy for me, a coding illiterate person, to figure out with just like poking and prodding at it. Also, if you want something kind of in the middle where you want to make a custom website, but you don't necessarily have the money, I've never used it personally, but I know that Comic Fury is a comic hosting platform that allows you a lot more customization than, say, for example, Webtoon or Tapas. You can functionally make your own website on Comic Fury, but it's still hosted on their server, so you don't have to pay for it. Couple of different options. I wish I could help more, but I don't want my brain to spontaneously combust. So WordPress is a good intermediary. Commissioning someone to make the website for you is also an option. Godspeed, because I can't help you with that really anymore. Anytime I want to make a change to the website, I have to go crawling into my webmaster's DMs and be like, hey, can you help me switch these buttons around? And they'll be like, yeah, okay, sure. But yes, we are moving right along. What fonts do you find the best to use for comics? So this is something that's gonna have a couple of different answers, again, depending on the style of your comic that you're going for. Standard comic book fonts are generally in all caps. That's just kind of traditional. That's just a way that like most comics lettering has been done in the past. It's very common to do all caps fonts in webcomics just because it's a staple of the medium, even though it's not okay, so from what I understand, comics back in the day used all caps fonts because they were easier to read, highly condensed, and like printed really small. It was easier to read if you used a font that had all caps. Nowadays, we are not restrained by the same restrictions, but people have kind of gotten used to it. And so that's why a lot of comics still use all caps fonts. This is what I understand. This might not be entirely correct, but that is what I have heard. A lot of people maintain is like they still use all caps fonts just because that's what people still like used back in the day and still use today. That is tradition, but there's also no harm in breaking tradition if a mixed case font works better for you. If you want to learn about comic lettering, you want to learn like way more information than you will ever need about comic lettering. The website Blambot, Blambot, has an entire section on their website with a ton of tips on comic lettering. Go through, read all that. It's basically a textbook for learning how to make words good in your comic. They also have a lot of fonts for download. So we're talking about what fonts are the best to use for comics. Blambot, that website, has so many free ones. Free and perfect for use in comics. So a lot of them are free, some of them are paid. But yeah, Blambot, a lot of folks are saying it in chat if you want to check. There will be a lot of like lettering specific fonts on Blambot. I believe the one that I used, I downloaded from there. There's a couple of free fonts that are just like pretty easy to use. In general, so aside from, just the general tips that I would say, just like, make sure that it's legible. Don't letter your comic in wingdings, please. What I would say the most important things are, A, is it easy to read? Is it legible? Is it going to give people headaches if they're reading it for long periods of time? If the answer is like it gives people headaches, then you probably don't want to use that font. Is it easy to read when it is small? No, probably want to choose a different font. But another thing to consider is, does the look of the font match the look of your comic? right? And so this is something that I see people maybe not take into account quite so much, where I'll use an extreme example. Like, say that you're making a high fantasy webcomic and you use a font that looks like an 8-bit font from a video game, like it's very pixely. Those two things maybe don't necessarily stylistically go together, right? Or say, for example, you have like this epic futuristic sci-fi fantasy or sci-fi comic that's like very high tech, very like it takes place in space and it does all this stuff. And then you use like a frilly serif cursive font. Maybe they don't match so much, you know? So I would say test out a couple of different fonts, maybe do like a full panel of your comic and then test out a couple of different fonts and show it to some other people, see what they think. Say, hey, are any of these fonts easier to read or more difficult to read than others? Do you think that this font matches the style of the comic? Et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so like for me, I have a font that I made with my handwriting, but I don't prefer it just because like my comics artwork is typically very simple and very clean. Is the way that you're making me feel tonight. Sorry, I had to get that in there. So I use a font that's very no nonsense. It's very simple. It's very clean. It's very easy to read. It's an all caps font. It's a font made for comics. But it's also kind of like the strokes are kind of thick, you know? If your art looks a little bit messier, a little bit more hand-drawn, maybe like a font that looks a little bit messier, a little bit scribblier, a little bit more hand-drawn, but still legible would be good for that. So it's really just a matter of like matching the font to how your artwork looks. But yeah, just in general, Blambot has a lot of tips. Just make sure whatever you choose that it's legible at small sizes and try to match it to the vibe of your comic as well. Moving right along to the next question. What free 3D software would you recommend for comic creation? I plan to use it to keep the background, the character heights, and the background of room structures consistent. Honestly, Blender. Blender's going to be the one that has the highest learning curve, but it's free. It's honestly not that hard to learn. And you can learn the bare bones basic. You can learn like caveman level Blender in a couple hours. And then that's really all you need. Like the 3D models I make in Blender for my comic backgrounds are so just like remedial 3D sculpting, but they don't have to be fancy. I don't have to put every single detail onto every single surface. If I'm drawing a bookshelf, I just need a rectangle with like some more rectangles inside it. That's all I need. If I'm drawing like a door, I just need a door and I just need to know like where the handle is. And then I can keep that consistent. And so if I'm doing a table, I make a rectangle and I sprout some legs from that rectangle. Now I have a table. It's easy. And for me, I usually draw. I don't use my 3D models like straight from Blender. I usually trace over them and add more details as needed. So that usually works pretty well for me. It's just like, I could, draw this from scratch. I could do this, but the 3D models help keep it consistent and help keep things from shifting around panel to panel, which is what happens pretty frequently. But yeah, Blender's pretty easy. I know that Clip Studio Paint does have a lot of like 3D objects that you can just download and use. I'm gonna be fully honest, I've never really used them because I've never really seen the need for them, and also it makes my computer chug a little bit. Blender is easy. Blender looks really intimidating, but if you just sit down and learn how to use it, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Just learn how to do some remedial Blender and you'll be able to figure out most things relatively easily. At least for what you're talking about doing, which is like just using them as a reference. Keeping things consistent. Moving right along. Next question. How would you suggest new webcomic authors advertise their comics? Great question, because ain't that just the question of the day? Everybody's making comics and they just want to know how to get those comics in front of people. And it's hard. It really is hard. I'll go ahead and say this right off the bat. Don't feel bad if advertising and marketing your comic doesn't come naturally to you, because learning how to make a comic and learning how to advertise and market that comic and get readers for that comic, two entirely different skill sets. That not everyone's going to have the marketing brain, because a lot of times the marketing brain, it's like an entirely different skill set. There's like basically no overlap between the two. So don't feel bad if you don't feel like you're doing a good job, or if you feel like it doesn't come to you naturally. Because like for most people, I would argue it doesn't. We just want to sit and we just want to draw our stories. We don't have to worry about getting them in front of other people. That's the hard part. That's the annoying part. No one wants to do that. Star enjoys it because Star finds social media fascinating, but I'm just lucky in that I have that part of my brain that's activated most of the time. I find the strategies of it interesting, but it's also not something I would want to do for a job. It's something I do as a means to an end, which is getting people to read my comic, you know? So as far as how do you actually do it, you know, like social media is going to be the one that you know what? I'll just walk you guys through my social media strategy, and you can either learn something from that or not. But this is what I have kind of said. This is the pattern I have settled into from doing this for years. And this is the advice that I have. Firstly, every time you post a new page, post a reminder on social media. What I do is I take a panel, I crop it down to one panel, and I post that, and I'll usually put I'll put like the comic's title, or I'll put the website URL in the picture. Here, I can grab these for you. I have a folder that's like just social media posts. And so I'll make something like this for every single one of my comic pages, and then this is what ends up getting posted on social media. So it's just like a crop of an interesting thing that's happening on that page for this week's update. And so you'll see this, and you'll see I've got the comic URL down in the corner here. And so I'll post that, and I'll post like a catchy little one-liner that kind of hints as to what's going on the page. And I'll say, new cast-off update, and I'll say a little one-liner, and then I'll post this image, and then I will have a link to the new page, specifically to the new page. And I will also, if it's relevant to the platform, I'll also include some hashtags like comic, webcomic, indie comic, fantasy comic, things of that nature. But you can also do more generic hashtags like magic, fantasy, stuff like that. On Blue Sky, which is the one that I primarily use these days, using the tags like OC, original character, OC Sky, which is like OCs on Blue Sky, actually works decently well. And so whenever I post cast-off updates, I will usually include just a handful of hashtags that I've had luck with. If you're not sure what hashtags to use, look at other webcomic folks who are successful. Not just like random Joe Schmo, like guy posting his comic pages. Look at people whose comic pages actually get traction and see what hashtags they're using. You're not going to be able to perfectly emulate their success because they've built up that audience over a long period of time. But experimenting with methods that work for other people is a good way to try and suss out what might work for you, and just take it and experiment. Study by reading and observing. Exactly. I put a million hashtags that vaguely make sense, and usually it works. So you can do that, but also too many hashtags depending on the platform, too many hashtags can like nerf your post. I know that's something that people are always fighting about on Instagram, if there's like a quote perfect number of hashtags to use. And Instagram annoys me, so I don't use it anymore. But also, a side effect is that if you use too many hashtags on something like Twitter or Blue Sky, you might start to look like a tryhard, and it might annoy people, and it might turn them off, and they might not want to read it. So I would stick to like just a handful, like figure out which one of those work, like where people are coming from, and just use those. I usually use just like art, OC Sky, things like that. I think Twitter's starting to suppress people using hashtags. See, this is why I'm not on Twitter anymore. I focus my social media efforts on sites that return the favor. We'll put it that way. I started getting less engagement on Twitter because Twitter wants you to be posting constantly. Okay, fine. I just don't use Twitter anymore because Twitter's annoying me and it's not giving me back the effort I put into it. I kept posting constantly all the goddamn time on Instagram, and I constantly had to fight with their algorithm to get noticed. It's a pain in the ass. I don't want to use Instagram anymore, so I stopped using Instagram. It's a pain. I don't want to do it anymore, so I don't. Blue Sky, I can post something on Blue Sky, use like 2 or 3 relevant hashtags, and posts will get so many likes because it's not an algorithmic feed, and people who follow me actually see the stuff that I post. It's fucking incredible, which is why I focus on Blue Sky anymore. Which is why I focus on Blue Sky now. Blue Sky and Tumblr and also kind of sort of YouTube are like the main things I focus on right now, because those are the ones that work, and those are the ones where people care, and you will notice that those are the ones that don't have algorithmic like feeds of information, because algorithms are the enemy, gang. Anyway, aside from posting updates, I would also, okay, so here's the thing. I just posted an entire video talking about how to get people on the internet to be interested in your OCs. If you have a webcomic and you have characters in that comic, those are basically your OCs. Those are your little blorbos. The tips in that video will also apply if you have a webcomic and you're trying to get people to read the webcomic. So I would say I'm less interested in just like rehashing all of the information in that video right now. So I would say I'll just leave a link to that video when this goes up publicly. It's a video I just posted it pretty recently. It's called How to Get People to Like Your OCs or something along those lines. Watch that video, take some notes. That's all my tips for getting people interested in characters specifically. And the tips in there will also work for advertising webcomics. So I'm just going to point aggressively to that video and tell you to go watch that video, because it will teach you better than me just spouting off like random information off the cuff here. I'm over here making valuable resources for people to turn to. All right. Next question. We're getting through these pretty fast. We might actually have time for audience questions. Incredible. Okay. How far ahead should I script the story and thumbnail the pages before I actually make the pages? So I know it's probably frustrating how many times I've said this, but this is really an individual thing. You have to it's gonna be something that you figure out what your preference is by doing it. Like, you're not gonna be able to figure out, like, this is someone asking, hey, what gear should I use when riding my bike around? Well, it depends on your neighborhood and also on you, and it's not something that you're gonna be able to figure out by just looking up tutorials online and asking people who ride bikes. Part of it is you're just gonna have to sit down and do it, and you're just gonna have to figure out what works for you. I can tell you how it works for me, but that advice might not be applicable to you because you are an entirely different person with an entirely different story and set of circumstances. So I'll talk about my methods and what works for me. And you can take that as a baseline, but what works for you is probably going to be different. And that's you'll figure that out by trying and doing and failing and getting back up and experimenting, right? Okay. For me, so Cast Off specifically is a story with a lot of mysteries in it and a lot of intrigue. And I like to, drop a lot of hints to that mystery well in advance. So I like to script fairly far ahead. Just so that I know that I can go back and say, oh, it would be cool. I'm planning on having this thing done in chapter 8. So it would be cool if I went back to the script for chapter 4 and added a hint to it way back here. And then that can be a cool way to like kind of, foreshadow things. I like to drop in a lot of foreshadowing. So I generally like to, at the very least, outline very far in advance. For me, I've always known the skeleton of Cast-Off storyline. I have known the bare bones of what happens in the story since before I started the comic, right? It's like I kind of knew approximately what I wanted to happen. And for the later chapters of the story, that's still what I have. It's like I have a couple of specific scenes. I know approximately what I want to happen. But I don't figure out the nitty-gritty until I actually start scripting. But I like to script pretty far in advance so that I have time and runway to go back and tweak things and edit things. Like, if I did not have a script buffer, chapter 12 would not have been a flashback chapter. I would have had to just, like, push forward with the original boring version of the story because I'm like, okay, well, I have to start this chapter tomorrow, and this is the script I have, so I just have to go. I just have to use this. Meanwhile, if you script far enough ahead, if you change your mind, if you get a better idea and you want to change something, and you script far enough ahead that you have the runway to do that, then you can do that. See, what's kind of scary for me right now is that I used to be able to work on scripts during my downtime at my 9-to-5 job. That's how I wrote most of Cast-Off, is I did it just during my downtime when I was working a desk job. But now I don't work a desk job, and so I don't have specific writing time. And so my script buffer has dangerously dwindled, and now it's like I've barely even started writing for chapter 14. So now I am forcing myself to have time to actually, sit and work on scripts, because I have no script buffer anymore, and it's making me horribly nervous because I really like to be further ahead. It's freaking me out because chapter 14 is going to be a really important chapter. Oh, but anyway, so I would say err more on having a larger script buffer if you can, and if that is something that is important to your style of writing. But if you're writing like a gag-a-day strip, it's less important, right? And then as far as thumbnails, honestly, with thumbnails, I usually just do the thumbnails, like, I do thumbnails in batches based on scenes, and I don't thumbnail stuff until I'm ready to actually draw the pages. It's why I never really know how many pages a chapter is going to be until I start drawing it. Sometimes I'll break up the script into approximately where I think the page breaks will go, but sometimes that will change during the thumbnailing phase. If you're trying to stick to a specific page count for your comic chapters, this is not a method that I can recommend, but I make a webcomic and my chapters can be however long I want them to be. And so I just kind of do what I want. I just kind of do what I want. So for thumbnails, for me, is like whenever I start a new scene, I'll thumbnail all the pages of that scene. And then I only do that scene. I thumbnail like maybe a scene or two ahead, but generally I do thumbnails as I am drawing them. So less important. So yeah, that's what works for me, but what works for you might be different. The important thing is to experiment and figure it out for yourself. You learn by trying and failing and getting back up and trying again slightly differently until you figure out what works. Thumbs up emoji. All right, and we're moving on. What's a good way to start making comics? A loaded hecking question. This is, again, going to be something that is very individual. It's going to vary for each person. But I can tell you how I got started making comics. And maybe something in there will spring to your mind and you'll be like, oh, that's interesting. I kind of want to try that. And then you'll try it and you'll see if it works for you. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, you move on and you try something different. So here's how I started making comics. And I would say that this is a pretty good way to start making comics. I started making comics when I was a wee bab. I started in like middle school. I made my very first comics in like 4th grade, but I didn't start getting serious, quote, serious about it until like 6th grade. And so what I used to do is I was very into 2 series at the time. There were 2 comics that I adored back then that kind of kickstarted my love of comics in general. One of them was a 4-panel manga called Azumanga and one was Calvin and Hobbes. So my inspiration for comics came from a weird amalgamation of those 2 series. And both of those comics are gag comic strips. And so I thought, oh, especially with Azumanga Daioh is a slice of life comedy series about girls in high school that just like say and do silly things. And then you get to watch. And so I said, hey, my friends like to say and do silly things. What if I use those things that my friends like to say and do and I make comics out of them? And so what I did was whenever something funny would happen amongst my group of friends is I would take what happened and I would make a little comic about it. And then I would go around and I would show it to all my friends, like for the rest of the day. And I would be like, hey, look at this silly, funny thing that happened earlier. You missed it, but I made a comic about it. Here, I can show you. Or it's like, hey, look at this silly thing that you remember this silly thing that you did earlier today? I made a comic about it. Look, that's you. And that was so good for me because getting to show people the comic strips I made like immediately and get people are interested because it's stories about them and people they know. And I get the immediate feedback of, oh, that's fun. It's us. Look, this is a silly thing that happened. I love this. And I had people to show immediately. I had a built-in audience of just my little group of friends. And then I had motivation to keep making them because they were giving me positive feedback and like they were really excited to get comics that were about them. And so like I spent the first, like all of middle school, basically, I just made so many comics, just like little comics about dumb shit my friends did. And they didn't, in the grand scheme of things, they didn't mean anything. It was not high art. These were not masterpieces. These were just like weird, dumb little sketches in my sketchbook. But you know what those were? Practice for what was to come. Because I was learning and I wasn't even thinking about it. I was learning how to tell a joke. I was learning how to use the visual medium to its advantages to get the reactions that I wanted. I was learning about paneling. I was learning about composition. I was learning how to show things. And I was learning how to tell a story in this visual medium. But I wasn't focused on that. I was just having fun with it. I was just drawing silly things for my friends. I was just having fun and making dumb little comic scripts. But those dumb little comic scripts were the equivalent of like starting with your little tiny dumbbells and lifting weights. Because then a couple years later, when I decided that I wanted to try making longer form stories and making web comics and like actually writing longer stories with comics, I already had so much practice with comics as a medium because I spent years and years making these dumb, silly little comics. And that was just like the foundation That was the building blocks. I was learning the basics by just goofing off and having fun with my friends, so that then when I actually wanted to apply those skills to something bigger, I knew how to do that because I'd spent all that time making the silly little comics. I'd spent so much time lifting weights that when I actually wanted to do like a sport, like a proper sport, I already had the muscle mass. Does that make sense? If you want to start any creative endeavor that requires a skill, learning the basics in a low stakes way is always going to be easier, one, and two, less likely to scare you off. It's going to be a lot easier to start small than it is to try and jump into something huge. Like, I know that there's a lot of talk back and forth on like, if you're interested in making a webcomic, should you make that comic or should you do something else first? And this is a contentious topic and a lot of my friends have differing views on it. But what I would suggest, it's like, if you want to start knitting, you could make your very first knitting project. You could try and knit a sweater for your very first knitting project. You're probably not going to finish the sweater. The sweater's probably not going to be very well made. You might have some holes. It might not fit very well. The string tension might be all over the place. It might be a little bit of a mess. And you might get discouraged and you might not finish it. If you're okay with that, then make the sweater. Like, no one's gonna stop you from making the sweater. If you want to pick up a pair of knitting needles for this first time and say, I'm gonna make a sweater, and you're okay with the understanding that you might not finish the sweater, the sweater might be a little wacky, you might go back and wish, man, I wish I had started with something small. You can just make the sweater. There's no knitting police that's gonna come in and say you can't make a sweater as your first project. I'm not gonna be the knitting police. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, hey, it's really great that you wanna make a sweater. That is fantastic. Maybe learn some basic stitches first. Maybe like just make some little like knitted coasters. Make like a scarf. Make something easy that you can just finish. And what that means in comics is gonna be like, maybe your first time making comics, maybe you just make some dumb little comic scripts. Maybe you make just like a little one shot. Maybe you take the blorbos that you want to use in your webcomic and you just make a couple of like little one-off comics. You make just like a little short story. You make a comic about a character's tragic backstory. You make a comic about how these two characters met. You cut your teeth on the small stuff so that when you're ready to take the step towards actually making the big comic, when you are ready to knit that sweater, you'll have the skills under your belt to know how to do a good job. I'm not going to stop you from making a sweater as your very first thing. I'm not going to, God forbid, I never want to stop someone from making a comic. Just be aware that it's pretty common. Your first attempt at a new medium might be a little bit shaky. Your first steps on this earth as a human being were going to be shaky. No one's good at something their first time doing it. So if you think you're going to get discouraged by that, maybe start with something smaller. If you're just super gung-ho and you just want to jump right in feet first in the deep end, I will not stop you. Godspeed, you beautiful nerd. Sorry, such a good, gentle parent about comics. I love comics and I hate seeing people get like disappointed when they jump straight head first into like the big comic and then they get discouraged because it's not as good as they want it to be. And so just coming from my perspective, I say, hey, champ, sport, maybe try a couple of just like little bitty things just to kind of figure out how to effectively use the medium. Try and do some smaller things first. And then I also find that like doing some of the smaller stuff will help you figure out if you even like making comics. Because I've seen it happen before where someone, goes gung-ho into making comics for like 6 months and then figures out that they don't actually like comics. They don't actually like it that much. They like the idea of making comics, but maybe the actual act of making comics isn't for them. And it's a lot easier and less emotionally tormenting to figure that out on something smaller and lower stakes first, you know? I will never stop you from jumping into the deep end, but maybe learn how to swim first. That's just my advice. That's my take on it. Anyway. Anyway, I think we've got two more questions. And then if my throat is not dead, I can probably take a couple from the audience, but let's get through these first. What do you think is the best way to make a webcomic when you have a busy schedule? Question I get a lot. Question I got a lot in the form where I took these questions. So here's the thing. There's always going to be like stuff that you have to do that's not comics. Even when you're like me and you make comics for a living, there's always going to be stuff that you have to do that's not comics, and it gets in the way, whether that's a 9 to 5 or if that's a kid or if that's like social obligations, whatever stuff you have, there's going to be something, right? And honestly, a little bit of a tough love answer here, but I do think that the best way to still make comics despite a busy schedule is to just try and work the comic into your schedule. Make specific webcomic time, whatever that ends up meaning for you. If that is just like an agreement you come to with your partner that's like, hey, I love you very much. I need Thursdays. Like Thursday evening needs to be my comic time. I would like to keep that day free for working on my comic. Like every Thursday, that's just my comic day. It's like with any like regular social obligation, right? It's just figuring out what time you need and how to work that into your schedule. Another thing can be learn how to cut corners and how to save time so that you can more effectively use the time that you have. Learn how to use shortcuts. Maybe your comic doesn't need to be in full color. Maybe you can get away with flat colors. Maybe you can get away with just black and white. Maybe you can get away with like an easier art style. Maybe you can do a lot of stuff to trim down so that you can get pages done in the limited amount of time that you have available. Your comic does not have to be a freaking Monet. It does not have to be a Picasso. It does not have to be a not every painting, not every page has to be like a masterwork level painting. You can just make a silly little comic. Like it doesn't have to be a masterwork. I always tell people, give every single comic page a solid 30 to 50% of your maximum level of effort. Because with comics, people aren't going to be looking at those pages very long. It doesn't need to look, not every page is a painting. You can do it a little easier, my friend. You can cut down on details. You can make your characters a little bit less designed. You can focus a little bit. You don't have to do crazy rendering for every single page. There's people that do that, and it's impressive. Those people are not people with crazy busy schedules. Also, another thing is that speed comes with practice. So I would say, start simple. And as you level up your speed and efficiency, you can start making your pages more detailed if you learn how to work more efficiently. Like my first comic, I didn't do any shading really. I did flat colors for my first comic. I didn't shade it at all. I just did flats. And it saved a lot of time. I went back and shaded it later when the book came out. But my first several chapters of my comic, I didn't shade them at all. They were just flat colors. So you do not have to make every page a masterpiece. Figure out what you have time for, and then do what you have time for. Don't try and force yourself into an unsustainable schedule, because we're all human and we all need time, but you don't have to be spending every single moment of free time on your comic, and honestly, you shouldn't. So Moving right along, our final question for the night. Do you plan out specific shots in your scripts or do you wait until thumbnailing compositions? So for me personally, I will sometimes have a vision in my head of what a specific panel will look like, or a specific like series of like 2 or 3 panels. Or I might imagine like, okay, I definitely want to use this shot when they say this line. But I generally don't thumbnail my pages until I'm ready to draw that page, essentially. Like I said, I do thumbnails in batches based on scene. So I'll thumbnail one scene at a time. If you're the type of person who wants to work that out during the scripting phase, more power to you. I find that I go back and I tweak my scripts so consistently and often that it's easier to just not bother with that extra work until it's time for the comic to be put on the page. I'll put like screen directions into my scripts. Like I'll take notes of what I want specific shots to look like if I have a very clear vision of what I want them to look like. But I find that thumbnailing, I usually just save it for when it's time to actually draw the pages. That's just me though. Yours could change. It depends on how much you are going to be messing with your scripts, how much you think you're going to be able to remember. I don't think there's any harm in like maybe doing some very rough sketches of like, I want this panel to look like this. I don't think there's any harm in like, you know, jotting that down just so you remember. But me personally, I like to save thumbnails for when it is actively time to draw the pages. And scripting as I go. But that's how I do it. So we have reached the end of my planned questions. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go take a little potty break. I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to rest my voice for a few minutes. And then when I come back, we can take a small handful of audience questions. So don't put them in the chat now because I won't see them because I'm about to go take a pee break. But I would say during my pee break, go on my channel and see if I have made a video about the topic that you want to ask about. Because if it's something I've already answered in a video, I'm not going to want to answer it on stream right now. And hold on to your questions and just be aware I'm not going to be able to get to everybody's. Do the questions still need to be comic related? Yes. Or, well, I mean, okay, this part probably isn't going to make it into the video. What do you guys think? Should we do personal questions too? I could rapid fire some personal questions if people are interested, but I think it would be better to do just comic related questions. Yeah, also preface your question with just question in all caps so it's easier for me to see. And please don't repeat your question over and over and over again, hoping that I'll see it while I'm in the process of answering another question, because I'm too ADHD to stop and start and stop and start. So while I'm answering the question, I will say, okay, drop your questions, and then I will pick which one to answer, and we're going to do these one at a time, okay? We're not going to fight each other. We're not crabs in a bucket. We're all friends. That said, I'm going to go to the bathroom now, and I'll be back in like 5 minutes, and then we will take more questions, okay? Okay, peace. I don't know why we're in a void. Something broke. I'll figure it out later. Anyway. Okay. I'm not done with my break yet, but I figured out while I'm sitting here and having a drink, we can just kind of chill. Stare at each other. I'm having a water. Have you guys enjoyed the stream so far? Is this helpful? Yeah, don't ask questions yet. I'll let you guys know when it's time to ask questions. Right now we're just chilling and I'm taking a vocal break. Yippee. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think that because I don't have my little thing to go up on the stream, this part is probably not going to go into the video. Might cut it down to make shorts or something. But I would say, just because this is kind of like an awkward little end of stream thing, I will let you guys ask whatever questions you want until my voice goes. Just for kicks, because I usually don't have time to answer like whatever the hell questions during stream because I get so distracted. I'll go ahead and say y'all can ask whatever, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Or for the etc. channel, yeah. Okay, here. Hey, Leavely, because I know you're watching this later. I'm gonna say any questions answered from this point forward don't need to go into the main video. These can go in like as little clips for the second channel. You can DM me on Discord if you're concerned about it, but I think we're just gonna take some silly questions. Just for chill. Again, I'm not taking questions yet. Put those back in your pocket. Put those back in your pocket. I'm not ready for questions yet. We're just chilling right now. I'm resting my voice a little bit. Put the questions back in your pocket. I am drinking my water. Oh man, you guys, I'm very excited for the Ariana plushie. I was holding Vector plushie up to my computer so that they could sit next to each other. It was very cool. Makeship fucking loves me. They were asking me about like, do you want to do a second plushie? Like while Vector's campaign was ongoing. They love me. They're very excited. They're just like, hey, do you want to keep making plushies forever? And I'm like, listen, I've got a whole webcomic full of characters. And they were like, okay. I do think that I want to make, I want to make a plushie of my mascot too, is the thing. Here's my conundrum. Here's my quandary. Maybe I'll get you guys to give me your thoughts on this. So, you know, I'm in the process of making all of my cast-off plushies. I'm doing them one at a time. We did Vector first, and we're doing Ariana next, and then Frankie will be after that. No questions about that. What I'm wondering is, at some point, I would like to do a plushie of my little VTuber character, my little mascot, my little friend. I don't know when I should do that. There's part of me that wants to say, hey, let's do the main cast-off trio and then do the VTuber plushie and then we continue, just because like I feel like the main trio, that's like the core cast, and then we can do like Rory and Marina and then anybody else if there's enough interest to justify that after. And there's Holly coming in with the Zara propaganda, of course. But yeah, it's like, because I don't want to throw off the vibes, because people I know like really want certain characters, but like, you know, I would like to make a VTuber plushie eventually. I was talking in the Patreon chat on Discord today that I would also like to, you know, maybe at some point eventually do like, because, you know, I'm writing a novel about Lapis. I think a Lapis plushie at some point would be warranted because I'm writing a whole book about her. That would be fun. That would be cute. And I do at some point want to write a novel about Verity as well. And then she could also be a plushie, maybe because she's my baby girl. She's my little baby itty bitties. I love her very much. But my thing is, like, with the other characters, I want them to have a story out in the world before I make a plushie of them, because it's like, I want people to actually, like, know who these characters are, right? But But yeah, it's just like, I feel like people watch my videos for the stuff that I make and they know a lot of my actual characters, but I don't know how well a plushie of my VTuber would sell, my little mascot. I don't know. I'm very curious, but I'm just like, I feel like people care more about my OCs than me. And I'm not trying to say that to be like dunking on myself, but I'm not like, I wouldn't say that like my mascot is really the center of my brand, right? I mean, I guess she is technically, but when people hear the Starfish Face, I feel like people think more of like the cast-off characters and some of my other OCs more than my mascot, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me overthinking it. I don't know who would want I don't know how many people would want a Star Carmine plushie is the thing. I don't even know if people know that that's what my mascot's name is. Shrug. New or old mascot. Well, okay, so like the thing is I do have both. I just, come on. There. Take my hat off. Because like I do have both. And keep the glasses on. Look like a professor. Because, like, I do still have the old outfit. The old outfit is iconic, right? But also, I do like the new outfit. The new outfit's cute. And I made it because it was cute. Here, let me put my hat back on. I like my hat. I like my hat. It's cute and round. It's a little beret. See, I feel like this outfit would be better for a plushie, though. But... wait, huh? Someone already posted a doll of your mascot on r/BJ. What? Where? Making me look at Reddit? What do you mean? Made it up. What the fuck? Oh my god, that's so cute! Are you kidding me? I didn't see this! Oh my god! I'm gonna cry. I'm legit gonna cry right now. I am downloading the- it's a fucking WebP. I don't know if I can drop this into stream chat. Oh my god, I don't look at Reddit. Look! Oh, I never seen this. Is a lot. I didn't know this was a thing. What? I'm gonna cry right now. I'm gonna cry right now. I thought you'd seen it. No, I don't look at Reddit. I don't know what Reddit is. Oh my god. I'm gonna cry right now. That's so fucking cute though. Oh. I'm like actually crying. Oh my god. Ah. Well, beans. That is so freaking cute. Oh my god. Here, that's on Actual Lion 7899 on Reddit. That is so freaking cute. Oh, my heart. My heart. I was not expecting that. I was not expecting that. Starflight. Yeah, I think I gotta make one now. Maybe, okay. I'm just gonna, you know what? She can live down here for a little bit. Because I'm not done looking at it, but we gotta move on. I do think the old iconic outfit would be more cost-effective with how Makeshift makes their plushies. I mean, true. Listen, here's what I'm thinking. I'm almost thinking maybe I just let you nerds fight about it. Maybe I just make a poll. I make a big poll and I make you guys fight over which outfit does the plushie get to have. Does it get to have the old outfit or does it get to have the new outfit and that's the plushie form? I mean, if I'm lucky and whichever one I do first sells well, maybe there can be two different versions, but I feel like, yeah, because like I love my new outfit. I love it. Here, I can in smallin so you guys can see the full thing. I can, because it's like, it's fluffy. I've got like a skirt and stuff. It's cute. It's floofy. It's floofin'. I love my new outfit. It's very cute, and I think it's adorable. But also, you know, the old outfit is a look. It's a vibe. It's iconic. this is the brand right here. Like, this is what I use for like all my character sprites in my videos and stuff. I feel like this is the more recognizable outfit, you know. But the new one is so cute though. But the new one is so cute though. I can't help it. It's adorable. I love this. But anyway, I'm back. Yeah, I don't know. I'll figure it out. This is not going to be a thing that happens anytime soon. All right, I'm going to just slide that over here because I do think I should, you know, do what I said I was going to do and answer questions. Okay, so here's how this is going to go. I'm going to open the field for questions. I will select a question, and then I'm going to ask you guys to hold your questions in your heart until I am ready to answer the next one, okay? We're not going to spam questions over and over and over again, because the mods will time you out. The mods will kill you behind the Denny's. But we are opening the field for questions now. And I'm going to look for something interesting to answer. Oh gosh, the problem that I'm having now is that the chat's moving too fast. Here, I can answer a couple of these real quick. Do you already have the end of cast-off planned? Yes, and I have since the beginning. I've seen some people have a separate social media account for their comic. Thoughts on why or why not to do that? I've done both. I think that it's an okay idea if you want to, but I wouldn't say that you necessarily have to. I would say it's not necessary, but if you want to keep your social media a little bit more organized, you can. Question, is it a good idea to get people interested in characters on social media before you start working on the comic? I would say it's a good idea, like, while you're developing it to, like, you know, kind of warm people up to the idea of your characters, but I wouldn't say that you have to. I wouldn't say that you have to. How many times did the story change before you started making the comic or even during the series? I change stuff all the time. The ending has stayed pretty much the same. I usually only change like little stuff. But what made it easier is the fact that I percolated of the comic on like the story for like 5-ish years before I actually started drawing it. I'm the type of person I like to let my ideas simmer for a long time. Oh no. You've asked the dreaded question. Okay, pause the questions for now. I see one I want to linger on. Question, do you have any houseplants? And if so, if you do, what kind? I promised you guys a houseplant tour and then I forgot to post my houseplant tour. I do have a couple of pictures. Not a ton, but I have a couple I can show you guys. Where is that channel? In my friend Discord. Yes, okay, hang on, give me 1 second. I have to hunt down all my pictures. Oh, M Creeper, thank you for the super chat. I forgot my question, so I give you this. Oh, well, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, very kindly. Okay, why isn't it letting me do this? Hang on, I'm fighting Discord right now. Why won't you let me search for just messages that I posted? Fucking rude. Oh my god, Discord, what are you doing? Discord, why are you fighting me? Oh, maybe it was like a streamer mode thing that was turned on. Okay, cool. So, I have to save these pictures. It is time for a houseplant tour. Give me just 1 second. I'm saving all of these so I can drop them into OBS here in a moment. Give me a sec. Give me a sec. Just awkward little pictures of my plants. Whatever. Okay. I'm gonna take you guys on a little field trip. We're gonna learn about All Stars plants today. In just a moment. Okay. I have saved the images. I have saved the images. It is now time to show you guys pictures of my houseplants. Okay, so I have, I think, 7 houseplants right now? 7-ish? Okay, so the first one, oh god, these images are so large. One moment. So this is the first one. This is my first baby. So this is Verity. I've named several of them. They don't all have names yet. But the ones that I have named, I named after my D&D characters because I'm basic as hell. So this is Verity. She is a golden pothos, and she lives in the window in my shower. She gets a lot of sun over there. So this is a picture when I first got this plant. It has about tripled in size in the 2 months that I have owned it, because it's in my shower. It's very humid in there, and it loves the humidity. Has it died and come back wrong? Thankfully, no. I do feel like pothos are probably impossible to kill. The window is so pretty. Yeah, so I put some privacy film on the little window in my shower, just for a little bit of extra security and peace of mind. And it also has the dual function of hiding stuff from people outside, but also when the light shines through the window, it makes like little rainbows go across the wall. And I do call it the gay laser. So do with that what you will. But yeah, I have a more recent picture of Verity Pothos, but I will show you guys that in a hot second. So that is plant number 1, and I'm going to put it over here. So that's Verity. Plant number 2 that I got shortly after. Oh, God. I forget how large these images are. One moment. So this is my second plant, and this is my other shower plant. I have one on each side of the window. This is Rodin. And they live together in my shower. So Rodin is a Phytonia. He's a little bushy guy. And they're called nerve plants as well, because they've got like these green leaves, but they've got like the little veiny patterns on them, and I thought they were really pretty. So he has like doubled in height since I got him. He's much larger and leafier now, but the leaves are still nice and small. And also you will notice that they have matching pots. They have matching pots for my little plants, and they love each other, and they live in my shower. Okay. So there's those two. So I then have another golden. Okay, so I have a third pothos, but I don't have a super great picture of this one. So I'm going to show you a collage. So this was a picture I took just like in my shower, because I was like, it's watering day, and here's all the plants getting a bath. So there's 4 plants in this image. And I am going to make this bigger, actually, so you can see it a little better. So this huge one in the top left, that was my second pothos, and that one's name is Willow. She is a neon queen. Pothos, which is like a slightly different, it's like a hybrid of a couple different leaf patterns. She's very big. She hasn't grown a whole lot, but she's growing a little bit more now. Because I finally found a spot where she gets a decent amount of light. Because I had a really hard time figuring out where to put her. But yeah, and then there's, you can see like in the bottom right, that's Verity's pot, and you can see how much longer those vines are now. And then in the top right, there's Rodin being a bushy little guy. And then in the bottom corner down here, in the bottom left, that's my spider plant. The spider plant does not have a name. The spider plant is a bit of an anomaly. Because here's the thing about the spider plant. I'm not sure if the spider plant is still alive. I'm not sure if the spider plant is thriving. I think the spider plant is in a state of stasis. And the spider plant's primary thing that has happened to it since it came home is that Milo ate about half of it. And it hasn't really done much since then. My cat Milo took a chomp out of the spider plant about 2 days after I brought it home, and I swear to God, it has not changed since then, and that was a month ago. I think that maybe I need to repot the spider plant. Like, it legit, like, it's like, okay, you're gonna eat me, then I'm never going to grow again. Like, that's kind of what's going on with the spider plant. I'm letting the spider plant take some spa time outside to give it some more sun, hopefully. But I don't know what's going on with the spider plant. The spider plant is a little scary. And people say that the spider plants are also impossible to kill. I don't know what the deal is with the spider plant. You guys are right. I should name it Dave. It's very Dave coded. It's just kind of dumb. It's weird. I didn't buy it. I got it from a plant propagation swap at the library. It is just, I keep forgetting that I have it because I don't pay that much attention to it because it doesn't do a whole lot. And its main goal right now has been cat snack. Oh gosh, but yeah, so that's the spider plant. So I have a couple more. Take it out to the garden like a sickly Victorian child. I literally did. It's living on my back porch for a couple of days to see if maybe it will start growing a little bit better if it gets a little bit more sun. Anyway, moving on. It is time for more plants. This is the goofiest photo of all of the ones I have posted. Give me a moment. You'll see why it's goofy. It's just a very large image. Don't ask me why I put a thumbs up in this picture. I was just like, yeah, new plant. So it has consumption in that it has been partially consumed. Oh no, you're so right though. Okay. So this is not a pothos. This is different. This is a philodendron. This is a heartleaf philodendron that I purchased from Home Depot because I had seen pictures of heartleaf philodendrons in the internet, and I thought they looked pretty, and I wanted one, and then when I went to Home Depot, they had one, so I bought one. None of the next plants have names, and I feel like I need to keep up the tradition of naming them after my D&D characters, but I have to decide who gets to be what. So this is my heartleaf philodendron. I've had it for like a month. It hasn't done much. It, like the spider plant, has not changed much, but at the very least, this one has not been eaten by a cat. So I feel like I think it's definitely growing, but it's growing slower. It maybe has like 1 or 2 new leaves since I got it, but they're very small. I'm hoping that this one will someday. I like plants that vine because I like the idea of just having like big vines all over the inside of my house. I think that would be cool, but that takes a long time because they grow real big. They grow real slow. So there's my heartleaf philodendron. I don't have a name for it yet. We'll figure it out later. It might end up being like Mira or something. Okay, and then the next 3 plants I bought all at the same time because I had a little bit of a self-control problem and went to Lowe's. Is what happened here. So first off, I got another pothos. We're not going to judge me, okay? Because there was a specific type of pothos that I really wanted, and that is called a neon pothos. The leaves aren't variegated. They're all like this very solid, like neon green color. And I thought it was really pretty. So this one is still living on just like my bathroom counter. So just ignore all of that. But yeah, so this is my neon pothos. I just thought that the leaves were pretty, and I had been admiring pictures of people's neon pothos. I really like how like the fresh green of these leaves. I thought it was really pretty. So I bought that one. And I've only had these for like a week, so they look pretty much exactly the same, but I just watered them today. They had a drink. Oh, no, don't move me. Don't move me. Move my image. Thank you. I'm going to crop in some of these pictures a little better. Whoop. 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 I'm going to organize my plant images. I have to show you guys my plants. I did promise a plant tour in the last stream and then I forgot. So this is what we're doing now. We're spending the rest of this stream on a plant tour. There. Okay. So then next is my other philodendron. And this is just another one where it's like I saw pictures of this specific type online and I thought it was pretty and I wanted one and they had it at the Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever the hell I bought it. So this one is a philodendron Brazil, which the leaves are pretty much the same shape as the heartleaf philodendron. They're similar, but they have like these cool green stripes on the leaves. And I thought they were pretty and I wanted one, so I bought one. And so this one and my other philodendron have matching pots. I've actually, this philodendron is not in the same pot anymore. I actually have it. So both of my philodendrons have this type of pot now. They match and they are on shelves next to each other in my bathroom. So they're like the twins. They're the twins, but they're different subsets of plant. So there's the other one. This one also doesn't have a name. I got to name it. And then the last one, I think this last one is going to be the one that I named Darius. Oh, I could do Lapis and Laz. That's a good idea because they're twins and they match. Oh, that's a good idea. That might be what I do. Okay. And then, so this is my last plant for right now. This is my snake plant. I have a snake plant. I've kind of I've in my head and in my heart, I've named him Darius. So I think that's probably his name. So this is my snake plant. So here's the thing about snake plants. They're technically succulents. They grow extremely slowly. They don't do much. I wanted a snake plant very specifically because I heard they were hard to kill. And I heard that they're very good for the air quality if you have, for whatever room you put them in. So I'm like, yup. And so I just have this on a high shelf in my bathroom. It doesn't get a whole lot of sun, unfortunately. It gets a decent amount of indirect light. But I'm like, you are the perfect size. So I don't necessarily want you to get any bigger. You can just be an air filter. You can just be a pretty air filter, and that's all you really need to do. And you'll be on a high shelf away from my cats. That's all I need you to do. So that's my snake plant. So these are my plants. This is the house plant tour. Most of them are in my bathroom because I don't want my cats eating them. But yeah, plant tour. I do like the idea of naming the two philodendrons Lapis and Laz, though. I think that would be cute. I think that well, which one should be which, though, is the big question. Because the heartleaf philodendron is this one, And I feel like that one should be Lapis because that one, it has heart-shaped leaves and Lapis is a soft little girly. But at the same time, that one has darker leaves and I feel like that's more of a, I don't know. I feel like I'm feeling right now this one is Lapis and this one is Lazuli, but I'm not sure. And then I still need to name this one. Maybe I'll name this one Mira because then all of the Verity squad is accounted for because I'll go through it. So for the Verity squad, that group of 5, we have Verity, the Golden Pothos. We have Rodin, the Photonia. We have Willow, who's like a bigger golden queen neon queen Pothos. And then we have Darius, the snake plant. Here, I'll move. And then we can have Mira, no move me, move my plants. And then we have Mira, who is my neon Pothos. That works for me. I think that works. I think that makes sense. And then we have Lapis, the Heartleaf Philodendron, and then Lazuli, the Philodendron Brazil. I think that works for me. I think that works in my head. And then the spider plant is Dave. And Dave. And Dave is the and Peggy of this universe. If you'll pardon that reference. Dual colors for Laz because of internal struggles? Oh my god, you're so right. We're assigning symbolism to these plants now. Fuck whatever else we were going to talk about on this stream. We're talking about plants now. I hope you guys like the plant tour. This is my plant tour. I'll go run around and I'll take better pictures of them later. Do you think if you get enough, you'd name some after cast-off characters? Potentially. My problem is that I talk about the cast-off characters so much it would get confusing. But I guess I also talk about my D&D characters a lot. So, I don't know. It's gonna get confusing too, because I am, actively in the process of writing a story about Lapis and Lazuli, and then also by extension, Zephyr and Felix. They're also characters. Y'all are gonna hear a lot about them. I am in the throes of outlining for that story. I haven't actually written anything, but it's like all very much in my head, and I'm very excited about it. I'm gonna talk about this more in my video that is coming out soon. But my goal is to work on the outlining and the world building and all doing all that. And my goal is to stop planning and actually start writing for NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, which is in November. So basically I have from now until November to kind of do as much planning as I want to do. And then once November comes, that's when I'm actually going to start actually writing. So that's kind of the goal for right now. Let me take a sip of my water. I'm probably going to end stream soon. I know I only answered the one question and it was about my plants, but whatever. I accomplished my goal. I am making you all look at my plant babies. My little green babies. Oh, okay. How do you stay patient in finishing Cast Off? I can barely stay patient finishing a way shorter comic about my OCs. Honestly, I don't know. If I'm being completely candid, I don't know. I think I just enjoy making comics so much, and I enjoy my characters so much that I get excited for everything that happens to them. Not just like the big moments. I think an important thing to remember is that comics are a marathon, not a sprint. It's not something that you can just bust through. You got to kind of take your time with it. You don't have to go full speed. You can just, kind of sit, enjoy it, go on a nice little walk with it. But yeah, I mean, as far as like keeping up motivation for a long period of time, I just really like making comics, and I don't necessarily have a better answer than that, unfortunately. I just really like comics and I like making them, and it's relaxing for me and it's fun for me because I like get to draw a thing and then share it with people, and I like comics. And so the impatience is that like, yes, I want to put these stories out there in the world, but I also, I want there to be the proper buildup so that those big moments that I'm super excited for will have the impact that I want them to have. you know. Yippee. Okay, what inspirations did you draw for your cast off? I've made a whole video about that. I've made videos on like my favorite tropes and stuff and how they made it in the cast off. So I made a whole video on that, so I'm not gonna rehash it here. Oh gosh. Question, you explained how you letter, but not how you set up the balloons in CSP. I literally don't use the lettering tools in Clip Studio Paint. I have a shape that I copy paste as the base for all of my balloons, and I just drop that into the canvas and I move it to where I need it to go, and then I just hand draw my balloon tails. It's not high tech at all. It's the caveman version of doing word balloons. I literally just draw them onto the pages. It's not fancy. I could never figure out how to use the actual like lettering tools in Clip Studio Paint, so I don't. I simply do not do it. Where's a good place to post your comic? I've already answered this multiple times. I would recommend watching some of my other videos where I talk about that sort of thing. In general, I highly recommend getting your own website. Webtoon is okay, but I kind of hate it. Tapas is all right. Comic Fury is also good, but I've never used it myself. I go into more details in the videos where I've answered those topics, so thumbs up. I am looking at chat. What's your favorite manga? Right now, Witch Hat Atelier. Full Metal Alchemist also has an iron grip on my soul forever. Tokyo Mew Mew is a classic. I got brought up on that freaking series, and it holds a very special place in my heart. Those are probably my top 3 at the moment. How did you figure out a satisfying story direction for cast off? You must define satisfying for me, my friend. Because honestly, with cast off, I just figured out a story that I would like to tell. And then I took the time to figure out how I wanted to tell that story in a way that was fun for me. And that was going to be satisfying for me to show to other people and to show and develop into something that I liked. My thing is, I love a plot twist. I love intrigue. And so with me, crafting a story is about crafting that intrigue and how precisely I drop the breadcrumbs and such. So let's see. Question. Okay, this is a fast one. What's your favorite food? I like udon. I like udon noodles. I think they're tasty. I like most things with a noodle. I just like a noodle in general. I forget if you talked about it, but if you see Madoka Magica, not only have I seen it, it was a huge inspiration for cast off. I will not elaborate. Let me see. Who is your favorite cast off character to write? I like all of them for different reasons. Favorite is probably Ariana, if I'm being honest. I feel like she's the one with the story that I enjoy writing the most. We've still got a lot to go with her. I'm very excited. I feel like she's the most emotionally complex of all the characters. So she's the one that I have the most fun with, I would argue. Okay, real quick. Hey mods, we don't need to be spouting off the bot commands quite so frequently. Most of the time they'll pop up naturally when people use specific keywords. So I would say let's only do that if it's like super necessary, if people are asking questions. They might be and I'm missing them, but If the chat gets too clogged up with bot question or with bot announcements, then I can't read chat as easily. Thank you. Let's see. How do you find / make references for character poses, background, etc.? I just Google it. Pinterest is helpful. I honestly would love to find something better than Pinterest, but for right now, Pinterest is what I have access to. Also, just like Google. Unfortunately, both of those have kind of been taken over by AI bullshit, but with some stuff specifically, you can still find it, and there's not too much AI, thankfully. For very specific poses, at like weird angles, I have a little 3D character poser that I like to use. I forget what it's called, but it's an app I have on my iPad that lets you just like pose a little 3D character and you can like move the camera around. And I'll use that if I need something like really specific from a really weird angle. But yeah. Whoa! Rainbow Lele, thank you for this red super chat. Holy crap. Hi Star, love your work and I think you're one of the most genuine content creators out there. Aw, thank you so much. Here's a general question. Do you have any recommendations for good workspaces? I feel like I get easily burnt out by working in the same space for too long. Interesting question. That's a very good question, actually. I'm not sure how to answer that. So for me, I'm a bit of a homebody. I generally have a handful of like specific places in my house that I tend to cycle between, but they're all like in my house, you know? So like a lot of times I'll sit in bed and draw or like write on my computer. And if I find that I'm frustrated and I have a hard time doing that, I will maybe like, I'll move to my living room and I'll sit on my couch or I'll sit on my little chair or something. I have a recliner in my living room that's very comfy. And I'll sit in that if I'm get frustrated. And so alternating back and forth just between those two helps a lot just to like kind of keep things fresh. I have recently decided that I want to be one of those girls who like goes to work in coffee shops. And I think I am going to end up reworking my weekly schedule a little bit so that my writing day is not on a weekend, so I can go to a cafe and it will not be as crowded. And how I figure that out is just going to be looking up like Google reviews and vibe checking places and seeing like, okay, do they have comfy chairs? What kind of music do they play? It's like, I've sat and worked in Barnes and Noble before. I've done that before. But I would like to find something that's like a little bit smaller and maybe less noisy. But that is something that I don't know if I necessarily have too much advice on, because that's a journey I have just embarked on myself. As far as like mixing things up, I would recommend just like finding spots in your home that you wouldn't normally sit at to work on something, just to like freshen things up a little bit, freshen up your brain. Like I just recently got a nice fancy chair for my front porch. I haven't sat in it very much because it's been so goddamn hot outside, but I would like to, at some point when the weather's a little nicer, go sit out there and write and draw sometimes, just because I have a nice little chair out there now and it's very cute. Just setting aside, like finding places to sit that are places you do not normally sit, and having a couple of different like specified locations where you can like carve out and be like, this is where I'm going to sit. If you get tired of one and you find yourself being frustrated, just like sitting in a slightly different chair at your living room table or whatever can also just like mix it up just enough. It's like, I had a conversation with a friend about this when I was at MomoCon, where it's like sometimes if she's having a really, really hard time sleeping, she'll literally just like do a 180 in bed, and she'll just like pick up her pillow and put her pillow at the foot of the bed and sleep upside down essentially. And she falls asleep immediately. It's just like sometimes you have to get out of your routine, but you don't even really have to move that much. You just do just enough just to shake it up. And sometimes that can be enough. So if you're thinking about like, I need a different workspace, maybe it's just as small of a thing as like just taking your laptop into a different room. Like, I have my dedicated work PC, and I try to work on it as little as possible, because I can't really move my big PC. But if I'm doing something like writing or sketching that I can do on my iPad or my sketchbook or like my laptop, I take that all over the place. I'll go sit at like whatever the hell chair that I want to in my house. I'll sit in my recliner. I'll sit on my couch. I'll sit in my office. I'll sit on my bed. I'll just like lay in bed and draw or write. And I switch it up a whole bunch just because I don't like being chained to one place. I like to switch things around. I like to mix things up. And I find that, you know, just doing that a little bit can help shake you out of a routine just enough that it loosens up the pipes in your brain. So that is hopefully helpful. I will keep you guys updated on my cafe girly adventures. I gotta find a perfect spot. I gotta find a location where I can sit and drink an overly expensive drink and write. There's an 85-degree cafe near the stationery store that I like to go to, and I have a very specific fondness for their caramel milk tea with boba. And Lord knows that's a $6 drink, but it's so tasty. And I love it, and I would go there all the time. It's a little far to make it like a regular trip. It's a little too far away. I'd like to find something closer to my house. I heard boba. I love boba. I love a drink that's also a snack. I love a drink that's also food. It makes me happy. But yes, I do enjoy a boba. So I feel like I gotta find a spot for boba-ing, for a spot that's boba-ing that I can also is quiet enough that I can sit in at work. And I think I just want to make that part of my weekly routine, is being a little cafe girl. I want to be a regular. My mom is a regular at the coffee shop in her town, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little bit jealous. Cause she goes to the drive-through at the coffee shop in her very small town, and she goes through there like every time she goes to town. She has to go get her coffee. And she's in one of those situations where like she'll pull up in her car, and like they don't even have to ask her what she wants because she gets the same thing every time. And so she just goes, and by the time she gets to the window, they've already made her drink. And and like she talks to them, and they know her, she knows all their names, and it's so cute. And I'm like, I'm gonna be honest, there's like, not in a bitter way, not in like an angry way, but I'm genuinely a little bit jealous of just having your spot and like you're a regular there. I feel like that would be cool. The thing though is, if I become a regular at a coffee place, I can never tell them what I do for work. Because I feel like why am I looking at plants? Because just look at my plants. Just look at them. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I feel like so I've been recognized just like out and about a handful of times. And I don't know if it's just me being introverted, or I don't know if it's like an actual anxiety thing, but there's part of me that thinks it's cool when people acknowledge that I am a YouTuber with a reasonably sized audience, and then they think that's cool. And then by extension, they think that I am cool. There's part of that that gives me a little bit of serotonin. But then it's like, do you only think I'm cool because I have a YouTube channel? And then it's just like, do you just like me for my YouTube channel? Or do you actually like me? And then like the anxiety sets in, and then I can never know. And I'm just like, and I have a concern, you know? And it's like, I had this experience recently where I went to, what was it? I went to like a drawing night at like a cafe place here in town. I was just like, I was looking for ways to get more active in the community, and I found this like sketchbook like night thing. And I went, and you know, I was just going to like try and meet people and make friends and be a little bit more social. And you know, I'm okay like just like, you know, trying to meet new people and like shooting the shit with new people. But one of the guys who was there actually recognized me. He like was listening to me talk, and then he recognized my voice, and he realized that I was a YouTuber. And then I don't want to sound mean. I do think it was cool, and I'm glad that people recognize me, and I'm glad that people like my channel, but it was a little bit weird that, you know, I just came to meet people, and then as soon as like word gets out is like, oh, she's a YouTuber and she has a really big channel. Suddenly, like, a little bit of a crowd formed, and they were all kind of like, they all wanted to like ask me questions, and they all wanted to talk. And I was just like, oh, this is cool. I feel like y'all only want to talk to me because I have a YouTube channel. Was that Milo? That was my cat food dispenser going off. It's kitty dinner time. The cats got their kibble dinner. But yeah, so it was just like, I felt a little awkward, and that it's like, do you actually think I'm just like here to make friends, and now it has turned into a little bit of a parasocial thing, but I'm trying to be social. It's just like, again, I don't want to be mean. Everybody there was perfectly nice, but it just felt a little awkward, a little, I had mixed feelings about it, I suppose. It was just like, I haven't been back since, mostly just because I've been busy. But I was just like, it made me like a little skittish, and I was just like, I don't know how I feel about this. It's like, again, everyone was super nice, but I'm just like, I feel like I almost want to stop telling people that I do YouTube, just because it's kind of the same thing where it's like, it's similar to how I feel about my webcomic. Similar, but not exactly the same. Where whenever I make friends with someone and then they find out I have a webcomic, I feel like they expect there to be kind of an expectation that, oh, my friend does this comic, I must read it. But like, no, like I want people to read my comic because they like it, not because they're friends with me. And so this is kind of like the opposite. It's like, I want to make friends because they like me, and I want people to think I'm cool because they think I'm cool. And I don't want them to just try and be friends with me because I have a YouTube channel. And I don't want them to think I'm cool because I'm a YouTuber with a decently sized audience. I want them to think I'm cool because I'm cool, damn it. You know, does that make sense? I'm not sure if I'm getting this point across well, but I have a lot of thoughts. You're a nerd, though. Thanks, Sly. Thanks. Appreciate it. Question, are you cool? I hope so. I hope so. I hope people think I'm cool. But it doesn't matter too much to me if people think that I'm a nerd or if I'm cool or whatever. I guess less than cool, I want people to enjoy my company and enjoy hanging out with me. And I want to spend time with people who enjoy hanging out with me. And I want that feeling to be mutual, you know? Whether they think I'm cool or whether they think I'm interesting. And it's like, I'm not going to go out of my way to make people think that I am cooler or what that I actually am. How do I want to put this? I guess I just want people to value what I bring to the table, you know? And I want to make friends with people who I value and who will value me in return, you know? Does that make sense? I feel like that's a good foundation for like a friendship or any kind of human relationships, you know? You want to be in a mutual relationship without relation to your relationship with your reputation online. Exactly. Because I feel like there's certain things where it's like you learn something about someone and it kind of changes your view of them. It's like if you learn that someone is famous, if you suddenly learn that someone you know is a celebrity, then you're like, oh, they're a celebrity. Now my view of them has changed a little bit. And I'm like, I'm not a celebrity. My joke at MomoCon that I kept making was it's like, I'm a niche internet micro celebrity and you must treat me as such. But like, it was 100% a joke, you know? You want people to value you for who you are, but not what you do. It's a Venn diagram and there is a little bit of overlap, I will say, but I also want them to be both respected individually at the same time. Where it's like, I want people to read my comic because they like the comic and they think it's good. I don't want people to read the comic just because I make it and they are friends with me. Like, I have plenty of friends who don't read my comic, and I don't care, because you don't have to, it's not a prerequisite to being my friend that you read my webcomic. I love it when people who are my friends enjoy my comic, because in my mind, that means, yay, I've made something that my friend likes. So I like it when people enjoy both me and my webcomic, but I don't want A to be because of B. I don't want them to feel pressured into liking my comic just because they like me. I want them to like me because they like me, and I want them to like the comic because they like the comic. If they like both things, then I'm totally chill with that. Like, that's fine. But I guess, yeah, that is a good way to put it, is that I want people to value me for me, and I want people to value my work because it is good. But I feel like those things can and maybe should be exclusive of each other. You don't have to do both. But I would like it if people did both, but I do not want people to feel obligated. This is hard to talk about. I don't know. Maybe this is just like a weird thing that I'm very in my own head about, but I want to make things that people like, and I want to make relationships with people who like me. And I don't want them to like me because I have a lot of YouTube followers. I want them to like me because they find me pleasant and fun to hang around with. And I don't want people to like my comic or my YouTube channel or whatever just because it's me who made it. I want them to like it because it's good. You know? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Yeah. It's a very human feeling. I'm good. I am that's good. That I'm glad to hear that is making sense to people. Girly Pop, go get girl dinner. Yeah, no, I was just thinking it's starting to get late and I want to go take a walk before the sun goes down all the way. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. I hope you all enjoyed the stream. The edited version of the Q&A of this will hopefully be out sometime in the next couple of weeks. It depends on how soon editor friend Legally can get to cutting everything down. And then I want to go in and like add music and stuff. So hopefully sometime in July is when the edited video will go up. If not late June, we'll see. But yeah, I don't know what I'm going to be doing the next one of these. I guess I can do a little bit of an update. I know this is not the time for it. It's all the way at the end. I am feeling a little bit better than I did during my birthday stream last week. So thank you for everybody who like sent me get well soon messages and things. I am feeling a little bit better. I've had a little bit more time to process things. And I am on the up and up. I'm still, you know, I'm not out of the woods yet, but I'm on the up and up. And so I do think I want to like ease back into streaming more frequently. I don't know when my next stream will be. I will make a waiting room when I have something scheduled. I will keep you guys posted. I'm slowly but surely crawling out of sad girl hole. I hope you guys enjoy what's to come. I'm excited for some of the stuff that I'm going to be doing for the next couple weeks / months. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and call it there. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I will see you guys around. Thank you all so much. Fare thee well, friends. Goodbye.